All right. 3, 2, 1. We are live. Hey, everyone. You're watching the Ash and Bats show. That guy over there is Bats.
Ah, crap.
Oh, fuck.
Sorry, I had to kill the sound. Hey, it's Bats.
That guy's Bats, and he was supposed to say, and that guy over there is, and I'm Ash. Oh, my God. We are just two buffoons. We're going to change the name of the show to the Two Clowns.
Ah,
Man, I am really sorry. I do not know what was going on. I swear to you, something was wrong with YouTube. I do everything the same that I normally do to stream. Get it all set up. Go into my program, which is OBS. Hit start stream. It pops up the nice little thing that says start streaming soon with the city backdrop. And then that gives us a couple minutes to get ready to come on stage and do the show. And it would never do that, and I don't know why. And then I went to the beta mode. That's I don't know what fixed it, Bats. I just went to the beta mode of the Creator Studio and did the whole process over again, and beta mode worked after like 5 tries of the old way. So,
well, now you're using the alpha way.
I don't know. No, I'm on beta.
Yeah.
Okay, no more alpha. Got to do beta. So, so we started a half hour late. Bats, if you want to send out a tweet that we're live. I sent out 2 tweets that we're live and never were, so who knows how many people were like showing up going, what the hell's going on, and then didn't actually show. Melissa is actually a trooper, hung with us the whole time. Thanks a lot, Melissa. I'm sorry I did not see the text chats from the previous 5 times I tried to start this. I did see that you were typing, but I was so frantic into getting the show running that I couldn't stop to read anything. So yeah, while Bats is sending out a tweet and sending his legions of fans our way, I'm gonna sip this nice Moscow Mule.
Oh, look at you.
It's gonna calm my nerves.
You should have been. Maybe you should have been drinking it the whole time.
Maybe. Jeez, just run the show drunk and probably go 10 times better.
Everything runs smoothly. There's no tension.
Speaking of run better, I just noticed that I still have the starting stream thing going on,
Yeah,
like a jackass.
Failed to mention that.
So, Melissa, how you doing? You said you're quoting James Gordon from Batman: The Killing Joke. Show them our way works. Oh, Fist and Vic, Anime Gate, Comics Gate. The Killing Joke. Wait, I don't understand that. Quote James Gordon from the Batman: The Killing Joke. Show them our way works. Oh, yeah. Our way. They know our way works, but
that's why they don't want it to work.
Yeah. This whole leftist third way, what is it? The third wave feminism bullshit. That's like, this has nothing to do with equality. This has nothing to do with helping marginalized people. This has everything to do with greedy people wanting to take more than they deserve. They want to exploit victimhood and be able to take things for free. If you watch this, like this whole Miss Captain Marvel bullshit, it's not anything to do with like, oh, women aren't treated equal and we need to have a movement. No, we did that a couple hundred years ago. Okay, it was called women's suffrage. And it was wrong that we had women couldn't vote and do things like that. Was all wrong. But now women are equal. Women can make as much or more as men. We just almost had a woman president. Like women can do anything. We have this Brie Larson chick. She made more money for her first Marvel film than Robert Downey Jr. did. And what's his name? Chris Evans did, I believe.
Named Chris over there.
Yeah, whatever. Johnny Storm. He'll always be Johnny Storm to me.
He was a good Johnny Storm. I liked him.
He was better than the other guy. He was better than God. And then
Jordan.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the character name though, and that's what I was flaking on. It's funny that we've had Johnny Storm is both Captain America and Killmonger.
Killmonger, yeah.
So, uh, so it all it has to do with is taking more than their fair share. You know, it's not enough that this woman, she's making more than all these other bigger stars than her. You know, we have to exploit victimhood and make everyone feel bad and take and take and take and take. It has nothing to do with equality. So they know our way works, but equality is if we do it the working way, then they have to be treated just like the rest of us, and they don't like that. All right.
So I tweeted that out, threw a couple of hashtags on it. While you're here, Melissa, if you could just hit the like button for us, that'd be great.
Yeah, or we don't know if we deserve a like button today. But honestly, really appreciated that you put up with our bullshit. Comics quirks.
What's up, my dudes? That's how he talks in my head.
Yeah, he does.
What's up? Yeah.
See, Comics Quirks is smart. He's like, okay, so the show starts at 10. That means if I show up at 10:45, it'll probably be running. I should start my timer here. Oh, geez, we're 10 minutes in the show and I haven't even started my timer. I'm just out of it, man. So speaking of Captain Marvel, I just saw Alita the other day, and these two movies are kind of being found to be facing each other. I don't think anyone ever anticipated this would happen, but now with this big giant push with Captain Marvel and this narrative that's trying to be spun, with the whole feminist bullshit and men just don't want leading women, blah blah blah, and then of course it's factually just completely bullshit. We have to go, what about Wonder Woman? What about Aliens? What about Terminator? What about Mad Max? Like, we point all these films with these.
Red Sonja.
Well, she hasn't had a film in long, but sure, Red Sonja. We can point out all these films.
So long ago.
Huh?
It was so long ago that it's like.
Oh, sure, right. I mean, it wasn't really a popular movie, but
I watched it. I liked it as a kid.
Oh, sure. I mean, I also watched Krull. Was that movie Krull?
Yeah.
We could point out all these movies, and it's like, but what's really killing them is that there's one that's in theaters right now, raking in the box office, and that's Alita. And so they're trying to spin this a narrative that, white males and their patriarchy and they don't want to see women. But we love Alita, and it's like, it's destroying them. And they're like, they can't use the whole whitewashing bullshit because she's Peruvian, like the girl that they cast for her. The director of the film is Mexican. So it's like, they're just holding, like, and it kills me, Bats, because you see them, they're mad when it's like a white director and a white star or whatever, but then they're even more mad when it's not that, because it destroys their narrative. So they're just mad no matter what. There's no winning. They're just gonna find a way to hate and push their bullshit.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I was talking with someone about this earlier today about it. I was like, Captain Marvel is directed by a white person with a white woman. Oh, they got a black guy in there, and then there's some aliens, and okay, I guess you could say that's diverse. But the Hispanic director directing a Japanese franchise with a Latina lead with a variety of different races and ethnicities in the film, including robots and actual aliens. They got you beat in the diversity checkboxes.
Yeah.
And it's a better movie. Well, I haven't seen Captain Marvel.
Yeah. I you know what? I'll tell you what. If Captain Marvel is better than Alita, it's gonna be a kick-ass film, like, because Alita was good. It's really good, and it doesn't look like anyone in the chat has seen it. I'm really depressed here because I wanted to talk with people, Melissa and Comics Quirks. So what did you think about Alita, Bats? The film?
The film? For a little context, I think I've mentioned it before, where I've been doing kind of some side work for my boss, and I was just on the computer staring at the screen, just working for like 5 hours, and I was like, I'm giving myself up to 4 o'clock. I'm getting this done at 4 o'clock because I'm gonna go see this Battle Angel movie at 5. And so when I went in there with like my brain is broken, I needed real entertainment, and just from the get, like by like 15, 20 minutes in, I turned to my friend who I went and saw it with. I'm like, hey, does this remind you of like an 80s sci-fi film? And he's like, it does. I'm like, this is freaking awesome. like like so like right in like within like 15, 20 minutes, I was sold. I'm really into movies that like build sets. And I was like, you know, I was really just, I was like, man, this is like a real little city they built. And that alone just really like made me like the movie more. Um, so, and with all the different, I felt all different types of emotions in it. I got happy, I got sad, I even got angry at some points, and it really just takes you on a ride of emotions. I thought, and that's what I really liked about it.
Yeah, I
Like,
have to
like
100% agree on that. It had world building, it had character development, it had heroism, it had a message, and like the whole like good versus evil and standing up for your family and things like that, that a lot of the SJWs want to always conflate with like politics and be like, oh, comics have always been political, like standing up against bigotry is political. No, that's morality. Like when a KKK person's about to lynch a black man and you stop in and you step in and stop it, that's not political. That's being a hero and doing the right thing. But when you write your story to be like, you're an asshole bigot if you don't believe what I'm telling you in this story, that's a different kind of thing. And that's what everyone's anticipating Captain Marvel is going to be doing, which is why we're upset. But you go and sit down and watch Alita, and it's like refreshing. They're not pounding you with any sort of like how you need to feel. It's just this girl that is trying to find, like, discover herself, who she is, and she's faced with this dark world that she's been brought into, and she's got good people around her that have their own flaws, but she has to determine like who she's gonna be, and she decides that she's gonna fight for something, and it's just a solid film. In fact, there is one slight political part in the film, Bats. I don't know if you caught this. It's really subtle, and it is a little bit political, but I almost like I'm forgiving because it's like political in the opposite direction that we're not used to. And it was this scene where these two black characters, they're involved in this little gang, and they tear apart cyborgs for parts. And one of the other characters in the gang's like, I'm fed up, I'm done with this, and he's a white guy and he leaves or whatever. But the two black characters, they're like, we're like still in it. And the black guy is all pissed off because it has to do with Alita and where she comes from and all this stuff, and like she's an old enemy or whatever. It's like he's harboring this grudge, right? And it's really like a parallel to blacks holding, America essentially accountable for slavery still. Like still holding like, dude, okay, slavery was 200 years ago. Like,
yeah,
it's time to get over it, like none of us held any of you in slave. Like, so, and then the black girl looks at him and goes, dude, that was 300 years ago. Get over it. Like,
yeah.
And I was just like, did that just happen? Like, that was a total, like, slight, dig at this. But it was done in such a subtle way, and it's like, it's over in the blink of an eye. So, you barely notice it. I was like, wow. But that was, like, the only thing that was political.
Now you mention it, yeah, like, I didn't. didn't notice it until you like now pointed out to me. Like, oh yeah, it totally did happen. Because I was really like uh, immersed into the story and the world, and like when it ended, I was like, oh, what? Like,
Yeah, I have two streams running here. This whole thing that we've encountered a minute ago is not over, Ash. Ash Bats. I don't even know who I am. Um, reading my own name on the screen. So I have a live stream that we're going. I look on my channel, and then there's a scheduled stream for 10:30. So people are gonna come to my channel and go, "Oh, it's not running." If you go to the wrong one, fucking YouTube. So
Comics Cork says politics in comics is okay if it's done right.
well, politics in comics isn't the problem. It's comics as politics. That's the problem, right? Like let's use the story of Star Wars as an example, because it's a pretty simple story. Everyone knows it. It's a story about a rebel band that's fighting against an oppressive government that's pretty fascist. It was modeled after the Nazi regime, and these rebels are a resistance movement fighting against it. And it's got a pretty libertarian message about live and let live, and we don't want government telling us what to do, and we're going to fight it. Now, there's politics in the story, but the story itself is not preaching politics to you. It's not used as a political message, right? It's just letting you experience a story that has politics, and these politics are within that world. There's no real world empire, right? Just like in X-Men, there's no mutants. So we can watch how do mutants have to live and what's happened, like, but no one has to preach to me like how do I treat mutants, because they don't exist, and that's why it works. But when comics start writing stories about, feminism, and you got Peter Parker preaching, wearing a shirt about, ask me about my feminist agenda, and basically espousing to readers that they're a bigot unless you follow along with the stories that they're being told. That's something very different. And that's what we talk about. When we say politics in comics, that's what we're referring to. We're not referring to, Marvel Civil War. That's quite okay.
Speaking, you just reminded me. Did you see the wand pool?
I did.
Indiegogo?
I did. It's the first Indiegogo since our boy Zach that I'm considering backing.
Oh, cool. I backed it, and I got a cool shirt to come with it. It says, "Ask me about my shit post agenda." That was like, oh, that's totally worth an extra $10 to me. Because the Indiegogo comes with issue 1 and 2 for I think $20, and then for $30 you can get a T-shirt, or for $30 you get a poster, or for $40 you can get the T-shirt and the poster with the 2 issues. So essentially, you're paying $10 for each product.
Huh. So how much was it just for the comics? Like if you just
The 2 comics is $20.
And that includes shipping, or is shipping extra?
I believe that includes shipping. I'm not too sure.
Well, I really wanted to get the Wampool, and previously it was only available digitally. And I told the guy, Mr. Marvel, if he ever got it on ComiXology, I'd buy it. And he said he was gonna, but he never did.
Yeah.
So I never bought it because I was like, I want a physical copy, man. Like,
It just sounds like a load of fun too. It's like I'm kind of a Deadpool hater personally. So a parody of it by someone in CG just amuses me. And like just using their mindset against them. He's a body positivity Hispanic bisexual character. I'm just like, just saying it out loud makes me giggle.
That is pretty funny.
Because like some people you could tell that to. You're like, oh, I just started buying this new comic. It's about this body positivity Hispanic bisexual guy, and they'll be like, oh, really? That sounds like it's like, especially here in California. So.
Well, I got Juan Pool up on the screen here so everyone can see. Mr. Marvel is a really cool, nice guy. I've been talking to him for a while, and I'm really glad to see this. I've always wished he could have these books in print, and so I'm gonna have to consider it. $20 is pretty high, but we'll see how that goes. I want to say shout out to Gateway and Comics, is a bud of mine, fellow YouTuber.
Subscribe to his channel.
And hey, Gateway, I'm so glad you were able to stop by and say hi to us, and hope we can entertain you with our antics. Man, tonight's show has been a literal shit show. It's been nothing but problems. But we're running, and got a couple people in. So,
Court says Action 1008 was actually pretty good. I haven't read it yet. I'm actually looking at it. It's at the top of my stack, but it just like it might just kind of slowly work its way down.
Oh, Quirks, we love you, Quirks, but we gotta. You're so wrong. My review would be up right now, but I've posted my Detective Comics 999 to my personal channel, and that's why it didn't go up yesterday. I didn't realize that till today, and so now my Detective Comics is up, and I didn't want to double post, so my Superman's now delayed. But oh boy, Bats, have you read 1008 yet?
I have not. It's just been. I keep been meaning to read it, and it just kind of gets pushed to the wayside each time I need to read it. Like it was in my. I always take a comic book with me to work.
Sure.
And to read on my lunch break and my breaks and stuff. And that's when I remember, oh, I got to finish Alita. So it just keeps getting pushed. And I went to go read it, and then I was like, no, I'm going to read Power Rangers. Nope. I'm going to do a video on Gail Simone. so I keep wanting to read it, but I just keep finding excuses not to read it.
Well, yeah, you don't really need excuses not to read it. It's not offensively bad. Spoiler on my review points. It's not offensively bad like some of the other Supermans, but
I think it's because it says Jimmy Olsen, the most dangerous man on Earth. I'm just like, shut up.
I make a point in my review about it. It makes some it makes some inexcusable offenses for a title that is not just a flagship title for DC Comics. This is Action Comics 1008. It's the longest running title in comics. It is It is the pinnacle when you talk about collectability. Action Comics #1 is still the most sought after, collector's item. It's Superman. It is the flagship of comics itself. DC should be putting effort into this book. And when you read this book, you'll see my review. I don't want to spoil my review completely, but I explain the problems of this book and the inexcusability of it, and that Bendis is just defrauding the readers in what he's doing. And so if anyone wants more questions on that, watch my review. It'll be up probably tomorrow. We can talk more about that.
They're going to keep coming out with a Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen comic.
Oh, that should sell like gangbusters.
And I'm like, this isn't the freaking 40s, man. Like, we
can Bendis write it? Because he's only writing 12 books right now.
So who was it? It was either Tehillium or Quirk said it on Twitter. They're like, I wish you were. Are you going to be coming out with any comics with your art in it? And I was like, he's writing 10 to 15 books at any given time. How's he going to have time to frickin' draw something?
I don't know. Speaking of drawing something, though, I don't have any footage or anything to show for it, but I heard, I wish I could pull this up. Brian Hitch of Hawkman fame, the artist, and Warren Ellis are collaborating apparently on a Batman book. And the rumor is
Who's the writer? I'm sorry.
Warren Ellis.
Oh. Okay, go on.
Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch, and apparently they've been working on it for the past 18 months.
Oh.
So I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
Maybe it's one of the 20 products that have not yet been released of this Black Label.
Black Label. I heard you on another stream talking about the Black Label, and I think you might have been exaggerating slightly.
On what account?
On it just being used for everything. It's being used for some things. But
I was being facetious.
Yeah. But yeah, I kind of agree. I saw like they had the Darwin Cook Silver Age series. They like slapped the Black Label on.
They slapped Black Label on the freaking New Frontier?
Yeah.
Oh, that's such horse shit. The new one that just came out? The new reprint that just came out? The $35 one?
It's the all-inclusive one.
Yeah. I work right next to a bookstore, so like occasionally I'll like walk over there and look and like pretend I'm gonna buy something and then change my mind. And I don't own New Frontier, but I want to, but like I just haven't pulled the trigger on it. And I saw that they had a new one, and I was like, I'll get it on Amazon because it'll be cheaper than $35.
Well, I don't necessarily have a problem. I mean, I think it's a little weird that they're doing the retroactive Black Label stuff. I don't have a problem, though, if they're doing it on just their classy stuff. And I feel like New Frontier is just because the whole point of Black Label is it's supposed to be like their premium books. It's like, like when a beer company's got like, our premium, extra whatever.
Yeah.
That's kind of like and so I feel like that works. But have you guys made a joke on the other stream about some like Crisis of Infinite Earth, Black Label? Just like, I was like, wow, that would be terrible if they just like slapped it on, whatever.
Yeah, I just see when I think of Black Label, I think of it as a new imprint of like, look, we're gonna be dark and edgy.
Oh no, that's not what it's supposed to be.
But that's how they're like. That's kind of how they've implied it, though, before with Batman Damned and Frank Miller's Superman Year One and Jeff Johns' Three Jokers. And for some reason, Kelly Sue DeConnick over there, it's the Dark Age when Kelly Sue DeConnick is on a level with Frank Miller, Jeff Johns, Brian Azzarello. And, it's definitely the Dark Age. Like, so.
I still can't get over that her name is among that list. Like,
yeah. Like, yeah, you look at that list and you're like, oh, neat. They're all coming out with wait, what? Like, as you scroll through the list, yeah. You're like, why? Okay.
All right, let's get into talking about Alita, the actual book.
Cool.
That was our book this week. So if you guys didn't watch the movie, I'm really disappointed. Gateway and Comics, by the way, I'm not sure if he's still hanging out, but he loves this movie. I think he's seen it like 4 or 5 times or something.
Boss, I want to go see it again. I might see it again tomorrow.
Yeah, I would like.
I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to see it on the 8th that I wanted to.
Yeah, I would love to see it on the 8th. That would be the way to go. I definitely want to. This is a movie I'm going to buy. So I mean, if that says anything about its value as a comic,
Let me answer this question really quick. Melissa Harris says, I have a question. Is Flashpoint an alternate future of the pre 52 DC universe? Um, yes. It is a bridge between the 1985 2011 universe to New 52. So it's like it's a bridge between reboots. That's if that helps. Watch the movie.
Or read the book. It's on ComiXology Unlimited.
Oh, well, that too.
Yeah, it's sort of what made the New 52 possible, right?
Yeah, it was totally unnecessary. Like, it wasn't originally intended to be. When Jeff Johns said, "Hey, I have a Batman Flash story," it was meant to be that. It wasn't, and then corporate shenanigans, and yeah. Anyway, Alita. Let's talk Alita.
All right. So this week's ComiXology Comic Club book was Battle Angel Alita. I'm not sure why they changed that name for the movie and called it Alita Battle Angel.
Because you want to put the character's name and then the title, where in Japan it's kind of the other way.
I don't think
It's
so.
kind of like in Japan, they go by their surnames before they go by their first names.
I guess, but I mean, James Cameron never names any movies with a character name. It's not like Sarah Connor and the Terminator. It's just the Terminator.
Yeah,
You know,
sure. I think it should have just been called Battle Angel.
Sure, you could have called it that. That would be a little bit weird, I think, for audio. Battle Angel, I mean, it's just, that's the name of the title. It sounds cool. Like, I hear Battle Angel Alita, and I'm like, what does that mean? What's that? And I hear Alita Battle Angel. I go, wait, what? Alita Battle Angel? Wait, what? That doesn't make sense, but whatever. I just thought that was weird that they flip-flopped them.
Well, I think they know that they're going to make a franchise, so they can go Alita and the shiny robots. They're like, oh, that's the second one in the Battle Angel franchise.
Well, no, because all the books are called Battle Angel Alita.
I know, but like,
it's like Game of Thrones. You're not going to change the name, even though the next book is not called Game of Thrones.
Well, it's like
in the show, it's Game of Thrones. See, it's all Game of Thrones, even though it's only the name of the first book.
What I'm saying though is like, even though like, Twilight 2 was called like New Moon or some shit, right?
Right, because that was the name of the book.
Yeah, so it's still like Twilight : New Moon. So this way they could just be like Alita : new title.
Maybe.
So the first one's Battle Angel. Because I think that's what they're gonna do.
Maybe. I just hope they make a sequel. Talim, you're definitely not too late. Even though we've got a way late start. Eric Breen, sorry I'm late. My last class ran long. Yeah. We saw you.
We saw you in the comics division.
Yeah, buddy. We saw you.
Eric Breen, I also saw you when
you got some answering to do. No, I'm just kidding.
I also saw you on Howler Mouse, which I was like, hey, Eric Breen's Old Man Comics YouTube like me.
He's a man about town. He's all over. That's why he's got so much knowledge.
Yeah.
So, Battle Angel Alita is a manga from the early 90s. And it was our ComiXology pick this week. Type A for Alita in the chat if you read the book this week, so you can follow along. We know who knows what they're talking about and who doesn't. I'm getting a stream here set up. There we go.
Let's see. Melissa Harris says South Park Butters says Game of Thrones is about floppy wieners. That sounds about right in my opinion.
It's Game of Thrones. You haven't even seen Game of Thrones.
I've seen the first 4 episodes. I pretty much got the gist of it.
I don't even think that.
Yeah, it has Aquaman and some weird makeup and.
Oh,
There's a
brother.
skinny blonde chick who likes showing her boobs, and yeah, that's about it. There's like some kid falls out of a tower because he saw his like
You know so much. You don't
your
even need to see
uncle.
anymore. It's all. You got the
Yeah.
whole gist.
Well, yeah, and then I keep seeing like ads for it on like Comcast commercials, and so there's some dragons and some like some ice trolls or something, and there's a wall involved. Yeah, good. Right? There's like a wall, right? It's like a big battle at a wall.
Yeah. Anyways, so apparently Bats and I are the only ones that read this book. Sorry, you guys. Um, you missed out. Battle Angel Alita is really freaking cool. And I have to say, Bats, one of the things I noticed before we get started is I feel like manga has come quite a ways in the past 30 years. What do you feel when you read? Like, did it feel that way to you, or did this
Well,
just seem like a normal manga to you?
um, I can't say I'm like very well versed in manga in general. Like I'm very like a man of this like of a creature of habit, right? We were talking about this off stream where I just kind of do the same crap over and over again. So when I was reading this, I was like, man, this art is really good. I was really appreciating the art in general. Where when I look at like a lot of manga, it's mainly like shonen stuff, and it's a little more less graphic and more cartoony. And so I don't know if like the art has
I feel like there's just
devolved.
storytelling quality. I felt Alita was very simplistic in its
Oh,
storytelling.
absolutely. Yeah, it was very.
It kind of reminded me almost of how comics were back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
The stories were just a little bit more simplistic. Nowadays, everyone's trying to write the next, whatever. Like every story arc's got to be this complex. It's like, come on. Um, so for me, the this book really wrong way. Got to go backwards with these books. For me, this book really reminded me of that era a lot, and it starts off. If you've seen the movie, which looks like a lot of you guys haven't even seen the film yet, and by the way, I'm just gonna go out on a limb right now and say the movie is better than the manga. What about you, Bats?
I was getting that, but I was like, hey, that put your you gotta like separate the two because I remember when we first did EXO, I was kind of like, it wasn't like this and it wasn't like this, so I was like, I need to separate the two and kind of appreciate each one individually.
Well,
And
sure.
what I appreciated about the movie is that it fit the American movie audiences where the love interest isn't even in the manga. So I was
Yeah.
like, hey, and then they kind of rearranged a lot of the scenes.
Yeah. The
And
the story of the movie, I was pleased to find out that it follows the manga pretty well, but there is some strong deviations, like you mentioned, the love interest, like that character doesn't even exist in the manga. Some of the motivations of the other characters are flip flopped around. The manga to me just feels a lot more simplistic of a story, and it feels like the movie took the story and said, "This is a really good idea. Let's add some more detail to it." And uh, I like the manga. I'm glad. I really like this picture, by the way, that I'm coming up here. The angel, Rusty Angel. I'm glad I saw the movie first. I'm glad I withheld reading the manga, because I do think the movie's better. Not to say the manga's bad. I really enjoyed the manga, and I'm glad that I'm going to be able to read beyond the movie. And I'm glad that they're similar enough to where I feel like the story will matter. It won't be like a completely different world in my view. And this starts off exactly like the movie. This character's going into a junkyard. He finds Alita in this pile, and he's sort of this doctor who uh, fixes up cyborgs. And this is a world in the future, which you can see here when this page comes up. There's a city of Zeram, I believe is what it's called.
Zillium.
I don't think that's right.
Yeah, it's like Zillium. It's like helium, but zero.
No, it's too. Zalem. It's right here. Zalem. Zalem. So the Zalem is like floating city, and apparently, 300 years ago, there were many floating cities, as you come to find out. And by the way, you're gonna get spoiled, everyone. So if you haven't seen the movie and you haven't read the thing, this isn't really gonna spoil the movie because this book does not go to the ending of the movie. This is like the first half of the movie, I would say. This book is.
Mm-hmm. Like this didn't have like, well, like I said, it doesn't have the love interest, and it's like I was kind of like really looking forward to like reading some rollerball scenes. And I was
Motorball.
like, motorball, yeah. And I was like, oh, where's the inline skating? Like,
Right. So I'm going to be spoiling some of the world stuff that you discover in the movie. Now's the time to dip out for probably 20 minutes or maybe 15 minutes while I go through.
no, don't dip out. We need the view time.
We can come back.
Oh, okay.
But this is just the way it is. I want you to see Alita. And it's not going to really ruin the movie for you. It's just going to spoil some things. Some things you learn in the movie. So they got these floating cities. This one's called Zalem. It's the last of the floating cities. And 300 years in the past was what they call the fall, and society was at its peak of technology and so forth. And the United Mars Republic, the UMR, I guess waged war on Earth and destroyed all the cities except for this last one, Zalem. And Earth is now in this big, depression, and most of the world after the war has come to flee to this city, and most people live under the city on this place called Irontown. And you can see in the picture underneath the floating city just drops its waste, and there's this massive mountain that's of the waste that they drop, and the Iron City below it kind of like circles it, and everyone fights for scraps and so forth. So he finds Alita in the wreckage, and I found this was kind of interesting. He doesn't get a body for her right away, like in the movie.
In the film, he already had a body.
Yeah, he already had a body.
You come to find out he already had one.
So we
But
see
what I did like about in the anime is her development of getting the body. She's on the wheels and stuff. I thought that was really cool.
So in this, we see this girl's hanging out. She's just chilling, and then all of a sudden, you can see this arm, and that's important. She's smoking. She looks around, and then boom, her head just explodes. You're like, what's going on? And then the next thing we know, we see Alita's got these arms, and so you're like, uh-oh, bad doctor guy. And he goes out at night, and Alita's like suspicious. And this is all fleshed out a lot better in the film. This is one of those things where I talk about the film just does it better. Mm-hmm. In the anime or the manga, it just kind of glosses over those things. It's not necessarily bad, but it's just the film is going to give you a lot deeper look into the story. So and Alita's a lot more carefree in the manga, I thought, than the movie, which I kind of liked. I think I like the Alita, and I love the Alita in the movie. I think Rosa Salazar did a fantastic job, but the Alita that's in the manga is even more innocent and whimsical and loving, which I think served as a very interesting contrast for this character who's essentially the most badass war machine on the planet. Essentially.
Yeah.
It's a weird contrast. She never walks around like as a tough badass, which in the film, in today's politics, it's important to, how do I say this? Like it's you're expecting it. Like you're like, oh, it's a girl protagonist. She's gonna be manly. She's always gonna be talking around how badass she is, and we're gonna have to see her put down men, so we can see how But in both the manga and the film like it goes even to more detail. All the male characters are strong characters.
Mm.
And they have their own issues and things like that, but it serves to make her character that much better because she doesn't have to be contrasted to belittled characters. She's contrasted next to strong characters, and she stands up strong next to them, which makes her just look all the better. Like, I've never understood this idea of like, well, if we make all the men look stupid, the women to make the women look better. Well, you're not making the women really look better. You're just making them look better than stupid people. Like,
Yeah.
that how is that? But if you put them next to amazing people and they hold up and are just as amazing, then you're like, oh, wow, okay, you're impressive.
It's kind of like how Zach would always compare it. It's like they see you as like a smart dog. They just where it's like they treat different groups kind of like pets.
Right, yeah. So her I won't say her master, the guy, the doctor guy who rescues Ito is his name. Ito. She finds out that Ito is a what's called a hunter killer.
Hunter warrior.
Hunter warrior. So since the Great Fall, he talks about like in the past there used to be people called police, and they used to like stop criminals and da da da. But in Iron City, it's everyone for themselves. There's no police or whatever. So they deal with that by employing hunter warriors, which are essentially just bounty hunters. And if you do a crime, a bounty gets put on you, and then hunter warriors are sent to come get you. So Ito, turns out, he's a hunter warrior. And Alita, this is a really important scene, both in the book and the movie, where he is very protective of her. And you find out a lot more from the film of why. In the manga, they just kind of skip over. He just really thinks of her like a daughter. And he wants to protect her and keep her safe and everything. And she's like, I'm not your dress-up doll. And she's like, I hate you, Ito, and runs away. And she, it's important to remember she's just a teenage girl. She's not, a fully matured adult or anything. And, she's just acting out here. It's not really serious. But he's a hunter warrior, and he doesn't, and she wants to be one or whatever and stuff. And he's like, he's looking at a 15-year-old girl and being like, what are you doing? But then he does realize ultimately that he can't control her. And she goes to the factory, which is where you do all these things here, and she registers to become a hunter warrior. And this is the part I thought you were going to dig, Bats. As soon as I got to the dog, and I saw, I was like, oh yeah, Bats is going to be all about this part. Am I right? Did I call it right, or am I wrong?
Yeah.
So we get our first scene here of the main villain. What was his name in the movie? I forgot.
It's the same. It's Maku or Makaku.
Was it? I thought he had a different name in the movie.
I can look it up.
He had a weird.
Sure it was the same.
Yeah, he had a weird name. Anyways, in the manga, this guy's Makaku, and he's the same in his purpose for the story, but he's done differently. And I kind of actually prefer Makaku in the manga over the movie because he's
more threatening.
He's more threatening, and he's more just hateable. Like, you want to see him die because he eats people's brains. And this was like, oh man, I was reading this and I was like, wow, if they would have put this in the film, they would have had to make this.
He didn't eat brains in the movie either.
No, he didn't.
I thought that was so neat. Like, he is addicted to what was it? The adrenaline in the brain?
Yeah, the
opiates, right? Or the
endorphins.
Opiates? Yeah, the endorphins that pretty much get him high like heroin.
Yeah. Yeah, he has to eat brains and stuff, and it makes him more sinister, makes him more despicable and disgusting, and he's kind of the main threat. Yeah, in the movie, he's just this big, giant, mean thing.
He's a big doofus who's
And I feel
working
like
for
they
everyone
probably
else.
cut this out so they didn't have to make an R-rated film, because this would have taken the film into like RoboCop territory. I
Hmm.
think with the bad guy just being
Ripping
twisted.
brains out.
Yeah.
Like
Um.
there's one part near the end where he just like randomly like pulls out like three heads out of his pockets, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, he was saving them. We'll get to that. So the thing is, everyone's afraid of him, and they just want nothing to do with him. Um, where am I in the story here? So we see Ito on his little mission doing his thing, and another rogue cyborg, whatever, kills a dog. And I was like, oh man, Bats is going to be upset here. Um, but then our boy Ito just whoom with his sword, or his hammer, just takes his head right off. And now we come face to face with Makuko, and our heroine here, Alita, just happens across him. This happens way different in the film. It's not a happenstance occurrence, but she's a hunter warrior and he's a bad guy, so she's gonna face him as her first challenge, and she's she's a badass, and she takes off his arm, and you get some really great action shots. When I was reading this book, and I know a lot of you guys listening or whatever may not be like, oh, I'm just not into manga, and I'm a comics person. Hey, I totally get it. But manga really is comics. It's just Japanese comics, right? And a lot of the same tropes and the things you like apply. And I know some manga can have some weird cultural things that make them seem bizarro and alien to Western viewers. And even as a fan myself, I understand, like, I feel that way. But Alita feels very Western to me. I mean, it's obviously a manga and there's some tropes of manga, but it feels more like a Western comic. And when I was reading it, I was like, wow, I really like the way these action scenes are, and that she's fighting. And this is some fantastic art. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you can just see how everything's laid out. And this is a great scene where she just gets chopped into pieces by him, and she's got nothing left but like her body and an arm, and she's like falling, and she just like wills herself. She plants a hand straight down, and then she turns around, looks at her opponent, propels herself, and just comes straight at him. And they did this part in the movie justice. Um, Straight at his face, just rams her fist into his eye. Um, and I was appreciating the dynamicism of it all. Like, DC still does dynamic stuff in their books, but man, like, you pick up a any Marvel book these days, and it's just stale. It's just pictures of people talking. The new Action Comics 1008. I'm not going to go in depth, but this is the problem with that. That book does nothing but have people just staring at each other, talking through the whole book. This is what comics is. Now, you may not be into Japanese cyborgs in the future or whatever. That may not be your cup of tea, but this type of storytelling, this big action, dynamicism, it's something that's why we have the visual medium. You know, if you want a story that doesn't have this sort of stuff, if you want a story that just is a drama of interpersonal relationships, you're better suited to a novel. It's going to tell the story better. It's going to allow you to get more in depth. Comics is about seeing pictures like this and illustrations, and letting your mind, your imagination soar and fill in the pieces between each panel and have a movie in your head. Um, and I just had to admire this level of detail, Bats. Like, look at his Makuko, like, or whatever his name is standing here, and like each little piece of circuitry.
Yeah, I was really admiring a lot of that. And when I read on ComiXology, unless I have my tablet, which I don't always have my tablet with me. I normally read it on my phone. I do it in the guided view. So I get each panel across my phone screen, and I was really appreciating the art. I was like, wow, man, all the joints in his hands later where they shoot out.
Yeah.
I was like, and this is really impressive. Like, not only do you have to know like anatomy to make this work, you also got to know how to just draw like every type of shape in every direction.
This is a good book to read in guided mode too, by the way, especially for
It
people
was,
that aren't used to reading mangas and having to go backwards. You know, I can flip pages backwards, but having to do panel sequences backwards throws me off because I'm just so used to my eye being
yeah.
trained. So I'm like, I have to force myself to do the right panel sequence. But when you do the guided view, you know, it's just straight up the next panel, then the next panel.
You still gotta click to the left.
Well, you
With,
just tap. I just keep my thumb on the left part, and you just tap.
yeah.
So here we see, you know, Ito comes to the rescue to Alita. She's all broken. We think that the villain is down, but he can't find the head. Well, it turns out the head has slithered away. It's like this slug thing, where like
Snake.
the spine is like this, yeah, and it's like coming at him here, and he's got this big horn, and comes at Ito, and he's like, ah ha ha. And this is not done in the movie, and I really wish it was. I mean, it kind of
Yeah.
was. They showed him but they didn't show him in action, and be slithering around like that would have been way cool to see.
That's shot. Yeah, that's epic.
And Ito gets shot, and he's down for the count now, and you're just like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And he's just laughing, all sinister, ha ha ha, and he's like, oh, your head was this, a cyborg unit all on its own, and what's our hero gonna do? And he's just talking trash and you know typical villain stuff, and he's gonna get away. I've burned the image of you, and the girl in my retina. It is done. And so he slithers away into the darkness, and our heroes get to live to fight another day. And they're taken. He's taking her through the city. He's dripping blood. I wish they would have done this in the film too. This would have been really dramatic, but he gets her back and rebuilds her. And this is the origin story of our hero. And she starts to have her dreams, and our doctor guy, Ito, is like, that body that I made for her is just not strong enough. I need something more. And he
I
ends up...
appreciated the berserker body origin in the film.
Yeah, the
more.
film made more sense. This story kind of expedited things. Yeah. So he ends up just happening to have a berserker body in his like secret basement. And he's got it. I like the assistant in the book though. This guy with this sealed plate over his head.
He was cool to look at, but I appreciated his assistant in the film a little bit more.
Really? She was plain.
They had a like the assistant in the manga's fun to look at because he's got a flat head. You're like, where's his brain? Like, essentially, like every time you look at him.
Right.
But I just.
Well, I think that was the point. He was supposed to be kind of a dum-dum.
Yeah. But I like the actress that was the assistant. She had a lot of heart to me.
She was all right.
She was very plain Jane, but she just felt very like warm, like a warm person.
Sure. I mean, I don't have a problem with her per se. It's just I thought this character came across as quirky and interesting.
Yeah, he works well for the
whereas the doctor assistant in the movie, she's just boring. I don't know. So, be that as it may, turns out they got this berserker armor. Now, this is interesting. They didn't do this in the film. But the berserker armor is male structure, and they comment on this that it's a male, and he talks about his story about how he found it, and he found this ship, and he went inside, and it was just sitting there breathing, even though that no one was in it. which I thought was pretty cool. And he kind of gives the little brief history of the wars and stuff, and their soldiers, and the berserkers are the most badass warrior machines on that were ever created. And that's what she's gonna do. And he has to program the armor. And he's like, that body sure looks male to me. Don't worry, the variable muscle structure means that I can configure it to be male or female, or anything you want, just by inputting values on a keyboard. And I got to thinking, because one of the big controversies in the film, of course, I've been hearing about the SJWs and stuff, is like when Alita gets the berserker armor, her body fills out a lot more.
Yeah, well, she looked like a 12-year-old girl originally,
Right.
and then she just becomes a woman. And what's funny is because I was talking with my roommate who I saw the film with, and I was telling him about the drama on Twitter, and he's like, "Really? What is wrong with people?" Because there wasn't really a part ever in the film where I was like, "This robot is sexy," like I was just so much more interested in the character and the film and the world and just in general. Like there wasn't a moment, even when she does that little transformation, like there wasn't a part where I was like, I'm attracted to this robot. And I just thought it was so weird that just SJWs are like, that's so offensive. It's like,
Well, it's because
what?
she got bigger boobs and a just more feminine physique, where the previous body she had was more, like you said, like a 12-year-old girl. It was not
It was
the
built
hips,
for a
narrow
12-year-old girl,
hips,
too.
small breast, like very boyish in appearance. Because it was in the film. Spoiler: the film it's the body that he had built for his daughter who's dead, and he uses it for her, which I thought was really cool backstory. Like I like that in the film better rather than just, hey, I just made you a body. But anyways, I just was imagining when I was reading the book here, I was like, what would SJW said if this would happen, instead of just, oh, she fills out more, but also like it turns from male to female. Like I was just imagining in my head like what ape shit things they would have gone through, been like. So he puts her in the armor, and of course it takes to her like a glove, and she's meant to wear it because it's designed for her. And the film even goes into better detail about that too, about why she can use the berserker armor and the sword of Damascus, which they just gloss over in the anime. Now, here's the motorball things that Bats was talking about. In the anime, it's just a gladiatorial combat. In the movie, they changed it to this thing called motorball, which is sort of a combination of rollerball or roller derby with gladiatorial combat. It's just like cyborgs doing roller derby, if you can imagine that. It's pretty cool. I do like it.
It was fun to watch.
It was pretty fun to watch. I personally would have rather had it been gladiatorial combat. That's just going to be a taste thing. They're both fine. But it made more sense to have like the one-on-one, like who's the best, where the roller derby thing was like, wait a minute, your teams, but there's I was having a hard time following that.
What I appreciated about it was like, it was the sport. It was like, like that the kids are playing it in the street with their own makeshift
That was
arena.
cool. I did like that a lot. Yeah, I did like that the kids. Obviously, the kids weren't practicing gladiatorial combat. That would have been harder to pull off. But this is the champion guy, and they repurpose him in the film. I liked him a lot. And he's just the most badass. He's got 281 consecutive wins, and everything. And they set him up to be just like this ultimate badass who no one can defeat, which is a cool storytelling technique to make him more threatening. And he gets a visitor, and he's just, sitting in his pomp. I don't know if his waiting room was his back room that he gets to chill out in as the champion and drink. And he basically gets ambushed by Makoku. He's just this head with these weird limbs. This would have been so awesome to see visually if they would have done him like this. But he ambushes him, And the champion is just like, whatever, dude. And you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, why shouldn't he be able to stand up to Makoto? But Makoto's got some dirty tricks and shocks him, takes him down, and then takes his arms, which is, I forget the grind cutter is what it's called, in which these fingers can extend into like razor-like chain things. And so now we see the new Makoto dressed up in his. He takes in the movie. He just takes his hands. They rebuild him with his hands. Here you got the whole champion's body. Just puts his head in, and now he's back on the hunt to get revenge. And you're like, oh shit! And here we see Alita in full form. And this again, Bats. I want to do some research on this. I was reading this and I was like, oh man. And I know you're going to cringe, but control your cringe a little bit. I was like, Frank Miller. When I was seeing this, I was like, I don't think this was inspired by Frank Miller, but I'm having feelings Frank Miller was inspired by this.
Those pants especially.
And also some of the scenes, like the way she's standing here and the perspective, the pose. I was like, this feels like I've seen this in Sin City. Her design, I love her outfit. In this manga. So here we have the scene where she goes to the bar called Kansas, which I thought was funny. In the movie, it makes sense why it's funny. But in here, there's an example of where things get switched. We have Ito trying to rally the cause of the hunters, where in the movie, it's Alita does it. I think it works better for Alita to do it. And we get another villainous character as one of the hunters. I forgot his name, Zapan.
Yeah.
And they want to kill Makoto, and everyone's just like, F that. So they get in a fight, and she's just like, "Hey, if you can beat me," or am I confusing the movie? Oh yeah, so he's gonna teach her a lesson, and she's like, "I'm gonna see you try." And so they get in a fight, and other guys are just like, "You can't come in here and talk shit and everything." So she just basically beats everyone's ass to a pulp. In the film, she makes this scene and she's like, "Look, I'll fight you guys, and if I beat you, you follow me." And she doesn't even have the armor yet in the film. So a lot of this is kind of taken on some different things. So here we have the Sword of Damascus. That's what makes Japan so powerful. So I'm just trying to get blast through this. She ends up winning, and we get the dogs again. I like this character that has the dogs. And Makoto has come back for his revenge.
The character who has the dogs, he's not in the manga.
Yeah, he is. He's just a little different character.
Well, yeah, he's not the cowboy guy in the film.
Yeah, that character was slightly repurposed. So she gets in her big final fight here with Makoto, and in the manga, this Makoto is the big threat. And this is why I said it's not really going to spoil the movie for you, because this is just one volume of mini mangas, and this is the big villain for it. And you could think of this like as a comic book story arc. So it's played really well. In this baby, this is the guy that Bats was just talking about. He has the dogs. He also has a baby that does not end the movie. And Makoto takes the baby as his threat, and so Alita's just like, she's gonna stop him. So he makes this big hole and goes down to the Undercity, and Alita chases him, and the dog follows, because dogs will take bullets for you. Dogs better than cats. I love that dog.
Fang.
So, yeah. So Alita, she's like debating. And then she finally is like, "There's no way I can leave that little baby to a horrible fate, right?" And Ito's just, don't worry, mister, I'll get Koyomi back, which is his baby. That's a promise. And here again, like, that's where you see like the heroism of Alita. She does the right thing. And I know I'm not really illustrating that well as I'm trying to go through this because I don't want to
What's up, Ike?
I don't want to go all night reading this. I'm just trying to blast through it. But her character is a hero, and that's one of the things that struck me about the movie. And the manga somewhat is it's less detail in the manga, but this is a superhero story, like 100%. It's the origin of a character.
Like her goal is like, hey, there's a big evil monster who stole a baby. I gotta save the baby.
Yes, and for the manga's purpose, that's correct. In the movie, it's a much bigger story.
Yeah.
But both of them are the same.
I like this part a little bit more in the manga.
Yeah, this was cool in the manga. The fight, well, because this is just focusing on this, unlike the movie, which has to tell a bigger tale. We get more detail in this conflict. This conflict is all about Makoto, which in the movie he's more of a side conflict. But the story is that she's not, first of all, she's not sure who she is. You're the audience are getting exposed to like, oh, she's this war machine, da 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 da. You've got these characters that are in her life. She has that total amnesia. She can't remember anything about the past. And she's learning to be who she wants to be. And she discovers she wants to help people and do the right thing. And like I said, like do the common things that make heroes. And the only thing different about it is that instead of in modern day, Earth with things we know, this is a future world that is alien to us. But people are still people. And I think one of the things that I enjoyed both in the manga and the film is that it presented people as people. Just because the setting is different, the people still feel like normal, everyday people trying to just get through their life. So there's no real point in showing you everything here. I mean, you'll see it as I flip through it, but I'm not going to narrate. She finds the baby hanging on a little thing, and this is a great fight that I'll just blast through here and let you guys read at your own leisure, should you choose to. Because there's quite a few more books after this, by the way. Oh, I love when the dog shows up and yanks on the arm and pulls it out of his eye socket.
Yeah, there he is.
And then she gives the baby to the dog, and I love this little woof. You're one good guard dog. And he's just like, it's fountain of blood coming out of his eye. And so he's coming after her. She gives him the baby, and she's like, go on to safety. And the dog runs off. And I wish they would have done this like this in the movie, Bats. This would have been so cool, because she now turns around and she's like, it's on.
Yeah.
And you get the fight, and he's like, don't you touch that baby or dog. Your only opponent is me. Some of the dialogue comes off a little weird because obviously you're translating from Japanese. But yeah, just speed through this. A lot of it's just combat, and it's great. This is why you buy comics. I wish more Western comics would take.
I was thrown off by that pig.
Oh, the boar.
I was like, wait, when was this character introduced?
Yeah, he never was really introduced. He just
the
armor has this little boar around the belt. It's like a boar's head, and it's like a computer that talks. So yeah, this scene is so much more extravagant than the film. He unlocks the water waste gets flushed through, and they get sucked down. This doesn't happen in the film. It's I guess it's just much more extravagant. So I'm just powering through here.
There was a part where I was like, here near the end, where I was like, is the dog okay? And then it cuts to the dog being okay. Like right as I thought it was like, yep, the dog and the baby are fine.
Oh, and this I thought was cool. So he's like, obviously yelling at her, I'm going to render you limb from limb, etc., whatever he says. And so, like, his arm explodes. And they're all underwater right now. And she's just like, oh, peace, you know? And he's like, what the? And so there was a cool part in the fight where he's thrown off because she had chopped off his other arm. And the right arm, which has the grinder thing where his fingers come out and lash, it has like recoil like a gun. And because he didn't have the counterweight of his other arm, it was like throwing him off. And she like makes a cool comment to him, like, yeah. And with the current pushing me forward, so she makes a comment to him, and I was like, oh, that's really kind of smart. Like, she's not just a kick-ass, like she thinks, you know, strategically, and it threw him off. So then he comes back when they're underwater because of this sewage thing, this like flushing, and they're in the current, and it's like, the current's pushing me. He says, with the current pushing me onward, I don't have to worry about recoil. I can use the grind cutter all I want. You know, like, she's like, huh. And I thought that was really cool. And then he tries to use it, and he's like, here I come. And then it breaks. And it's because she had already known this. And she's like, when I spun around your arm, I made it so that you couldn't withstand the stress of the grind cutter by placing cuts in the actuators of your arm to weaken its surface structure with these magic fingers. So basically, when he used it, it overstressed itself. So like, she had thought about that too. And you're just like, damn. So this was it. Like, the book kind of has an abrupt ending, which I don't necessarily mind because it's manga. But what are you doing, Bats?
Sorry, my phone was just being weird.
Silent mode. All right, that took a while. Sorry for that. I tried to blast through as fast as I could. That was Alita for all you people that didn't want to take the ComiXology challenge. Hope everyone's still awake. And yeah. Here's Stanley. What'd you think, Bats? You heard me.
I really liked it. I'm probably going to have to read some more of it because I want a sequel and I don't have a sequel. I'm going to have to wait for a sequel. So
yeah, I'm going to read more. I really enjoyed it too. Like I said, the only complaint that I would have, and this isn't only, it's only because I've seen the movie, is that I enjoyed that the movie went in more depth.
mm-hmm.
You know, but that's not really a complaint. It's really just a preference. So
I also think that, like, the more I read the manga, the more I'm going to get more depth. Like, Ito's ex-wife isn't even in the first volume.
right. I mean, I don't even know if that story is the story. Maybe it is. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I enjoy that I don't know. I enjoy now that I'm in uncharted waters and I can just like read more stuff. So, yes, Tehillim says there's more than one volume to Battle Angel Alita. I think there's like 6 volumes to this first series, and they're all available on ComiXology Unlimited, including the next series, where I think takes place on Mars. DC Fans United is in the house. Always got to make sure we say hello to our good friend, DC Fans United.
I said hi to him already.
Oh,
I said, what's up, Ike?
Oh. I don't know if that's his real name, Bats.
That's his real name.
Oh. Okay. Well, I didn't say hi to him, so I'm saying hi to him. DC Fans United is a good friend to the channel, and if you like DC stuff, get to know his channel. He's all about DC books. What I liked about this that I didn't expect was that 90s feel, and like I can feel, you know, me, like, I know, like, I don't want to make you cringe, but being this Frank Miller fan that I am, I was reading this and I was like, God, I feel some of the influences. I feel like Frank pulled shit from here. Like, I feel, I don't know, it just feels that way. But regardless, the same aesthetics and the same way things were done, I just loved. And I'm looking forward to reading more of this. There's also an anime.
Is there?
There is. I don't know where to find it. I'll have to look into it. Well, hopefully you guys will read our next book. Bats, have you picked that out yet?
I have.
You have. All right. So, Alita is wrapped up. We've talked about the book. You got to see it. Hopefully, what we talked about, you know, you got, even though you didn't read it, maybe it's piqued your interest, and you're like, yeah, this is maybe something I want to check out. See the movie. Please see the movie. It's, you know, I don't want to oversell it. It's not the greatest movie ever made, right? But it is really entertaining, and it's something I want to own. It's something I want to see multiple times. The character of Alita is just endearing. She's going to go down, in my opinion, as one of the greatest feminist protagonists in movie history. She's going to be right up there with Ripley and Sarah Connor and Princess Leia. I think she's that well done as a protagonist. And I've never seen Rosa Salazar before that I'm aware of. But what she did here in that film is fantastic. All right, Bats, I'm going to put it to you. What is our next ComiXology Comic Club book?
So, I've been mildly threatening this for a while.
Oh, God.
What do you think it is?
I don't know, but sounds like when you say threatening, it makes me scared.
So I've been mildly threatening Power Rangers. I'm not picking Power Rangers.
I was going to say, I don't think Power Rangers is on ComiXology.
Oh, yeah, both series. Mighty Morphin and Go-Go are both available on ComiXology.
I'll tell you what, I would not, just to be fair to you, I would not actually mind reading Power Rangers if it's good Power Rangers.
It's really good.
Okay, I don't mind.
But I'm not picking Power.
Okay.
You know, I've been standing up for that book before everyone jumped on.
I'm just about good books. I'm gonna put prejudice aside, and I'm gonna be like, if that looks the stupidest thing in the world, but it's good, I will be. I want my mind changed. That's what I want. I want you to change my mind.
All right, Steven Crowder, calm down. Okay, so I'm hoping that this does change your mind. So I am picking. Let me bring it up. I am picking a character that you said that you want to like, but he just hasn't been done right for you. You said he needs the Miller treatment. And I was like, hey, I know the perfect book.
Oh, I've just said that about someone too.
You remember saying it now.
I remember saying it, but I don't remember who I said it about.
Oh, I did. I remember. So I am picking the Immortal Iron Fist.
Oh, okay.
By Ed Brubaker, Matt Fraction, and Aha.
All right. Do you have it? Something to show?
Do I have it? I bought this book. This is one of the first things I bought on ComiXology.
I mean, I'm saying, do you have it? Do you screen share, or do you want me to look it up?
Oh, I can. Yeah. Let me just pop that up for you. Let's see. Oh my goodness! I hate computers. I'm very bad at them. Oh, I gotta sign in. Goodness gracious. Yeah, dead air. I apologize.
Is it a volume number? I found some Immortal Iron Fist stuff.
Yeah, volume 1.
The last Iron Fist story?
Yes, that's the first one.
All right, got up on the screen here.
You beat me to it. I don't. What the hell happened to YouTube? Oh, it's over here. Yep, that's it.
Tehalim says, what about Manga Wednesdays, Ash on Comics and Bats? I don't read enough manga to do that. someone else wants to do Manga Wednesdays, I'll watch. But I don't.
You should do it. That's what I said. I'll watch
Yeah.
your Mango Wednesdays.
Yeah, I am so behind on comics right now. I really need to catch up. But I do plan on reading some more manga. Um, while Bats is getting his stuff in order, I will say that someone mentioned earlier. I saw that they were like said something was dumb, like Sword Art Online or whatever. Tell you, I mean, everyone knows I'm a huge My Hero Academia fan. Unapologetically, I am seen all the anime. I am now gonna. I'm ready to plow through the manga, but I'm only reason I haven't is because I'm trying to catch up on my comics. I started reading the secondary My Hero Academia Vigilante series, which is only available on manga. But in my spare time, I got myself into another anime. Well, actually, two animes, but one that's just for me, and it's called Black Clover. And it starts off. It actually shares a lot of similarities to My Hero Academia, except that it's wizards and has nothing to do with school, and some slight differences, but a lot of themes are very much the same, and including a protagonist who doesn't have any power. But it's done really well. At first, I was like, "Oh, this feels kind of like a clone thing," but not as good. And as the story goes on and on, it just gets better and better and better. And I'm just like, "Oh, now I'm heavily invested." So, if you are a person who likes looking for a good manga, and I want to read the manga Black Clover because that's another one that's only has so many episodes, and I want to go more. Um, I would recommend Black Clover, and of course now you have Alita, which I think is worth it. Go ahead, Bats, if you're.
Oh yeah, you already got the thing that I was trying to get up anyway, so you beat me.
Well, now you can talk about it. You're the one that's
Oh
presenting.
yeah, so you said that you wanted to like Iron Fist because I think everyone who enjoys like Marvel comics wants to like Iron Fist. But he's kind of goofy. He's got like a disco outfit with some freaking dance shoes, and he's got a tattoo that almost looks like the bat symbol, and it's kind of weird. And it's like uh the shot here you have on screen, the last preview page, kind of shows you the visual style of the book.
And it's got a kind of a cool visual style.
Well, here, yeah, the one where he's fighting a bunch of dudes with guns.
Yeah, in the dark.
That Yeah, in the dark. A lot of the book looks like that,
Okay.
and then a lot of the flashbacks looks like the bright colored stuff. So it has this really cool vibe to it.
So this one here, the Immortal Iron Fist, the Last Iron Fist story, Volume 1. That's ironic. The Last Story, Volume 1. It's 152 pages. I've heard good things about Brewbreaker and Matt Fraction. I've never read a Matt Fraction book, so I don't know. But I've heard good things. I just know from his wife, who doesn't call herself Fraction.
I forgot all about that. Yeah, that's totally his wife, huh?
Mm-hmm.
She's such a sweetheart.
That's how she got in the business. Nepotism. Okay, well, we have a book, everyone. So you can purchase it for the low price of $9 and something cents. I have a discount because of my unlimited. It's probably $9.99. Or you can read it for free on ComiXology Unlimited if you are a member, which is only $5.99 a month. You get so access to so many comics and manga, and now that DC is on here, it's so much more valuable. So I don't get paid to shill it. I use it. Obviously, Bats and I both use it. It's great. It saves you a lot too if you're a person who wants to read a lot more stuff.
I mean, even just reading like 4 graphic novels a month on it, pretty worth it. You know, it's like,
Well, even if you just read one, you kind of paid for it.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
like you can find so much stuff, and it's like helpful if you want to catch up on stories, especially like for DC. They're putting a lot of their Rebirth stuff in there now, so you can like get into like a series, but not have to buy all the graphic novels like I did. You know, like you can just I'll just read up on all these because some of their stuff is worth getting. You know, like I've been really considering getting Deathstroke. I keep hearing amazing things about Deathstroke, but I was like, I don't want to invest in all this stuff. But I was like, oh, maybe I'll just go through and read the books. But so cool, man. I'm glad you kind of picked this because I have always been, you know, wanting to read Iron Fist, but not wanting to read Iron Fist. If you
Yeah,
know what I mean.
yeah, this one is it has that like what you said. It's, you know, like, oh, I wish it had a Miller treatment, and this kind of like takes it away from his goofiness and really focuses on like his mythology. And you know, there is a lot of goofiness to it, but it's played really straight here. Like, it's what the TV show Wish it was. If anyone watched that,
I haven't seen it yet. Cool, man.
you
That's a good recommendation. I think I'm glad we got as much as I hate Marvel these days. I'm glad we got a Marvel title.
this is 2007. This is a
Yeah,
12
I
year
get
old
it.
book.
I get it. I'm just saying I'm glad we got a Marvel title because
Oh, we
you know
haven't had one yet, huh?
we haven't had one. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
So Tehalim says about the manga Wednesdays. It doesn't have to be about reading manga, but maybe the discussion of it. Tehalim, it's a good idea, but I am not that knowledgeable about manga. I've read a few. You know, like to do a show on it, I would just. I mean, I'm more of a nub on manga than I am on DC, so it just I'd be in over my head. I would be more than happy if someone had a manga show and I could just guest on it and ask questions. That would work, but I could not run a show. It says you might like Blue Exorcist. Interesting story, explores the idea of being the son of Satan. That is not up my alley at all. Sorry to say. I am very much a good guys type person, goody goody two shoes. I like good heroes. You know, like I said, look at My Hero Academia and look at everything that contains. That's what I'm about. I'm about characters trying to be the best that they could be, do good for people, fight the bad guys, stand up to injustice. That's my sort of thing, which is why I'm a big comics guy. It just turns out that manga lately has been taking a lot of influence from Western comics, where apparently Western comics are dropping the ball. And Battle Angel Alita, like I said, I didn't read that forever. And it's been on my radar for so long because I'm this huge, huge, huge James Cameron fan. Like, I'm a massive Cameron fanboy. James Cameron is to films to me as Frank Miller is to comics. Like, I'll just suck up anything he makes. So when I heard like 20 years ago that James Cameron got the rights to Battle Angel Alita, I was like, oh, I got to read this. Like,
And you never did.
And I never did because I was just like, it just doesn't seem like my thing. Then when I finally saw the movie, I was like, oh, this is a superhero story. What? Oh, like totally did not know what that it was. So, yeah.
So Eric Brain here says, then go read Iron Fist 1 through 15. 11 and 12 teams up with Captain America to fight the Wrecking Crew. Issue 14 is for Sabretooth, and 15 he fights the X-Men.
Those are the original
Yes.
Iron Fists. I've read the issue, I'm pretty sure, where he fights the X-Men. I'm pretty sure that's a Chris Claremont issue.
Yeah.
And I think he shows up at like one of the like. I'm trying to remember this. Eric will correct me if I'm wrong. He shows up at one of their. I think it's like Jean Grey's like penthouse apartment or something, and he's there. I forget for some reason, and then one of the other X-Men is there, doesn't know him, and they end up fighting because they think Iron Fist is an intruder, and then he's like beating him up, and so then the other X-Men see Iron Fist is beating up their friend, so then they jump in, and it's this massive fight, and they just tear up the whole place, and at the end you find out like Jean Grey shows up, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, this is my apartment, blah, blah, blah. And then we're gonna have a birthday party," and everyone's like, "Oh,
Um,
let's be friends now," and that was like the end, and they're just like, "That was silly."
if you look over to the right of the screen, you'll see there's Iron Fist Living Weapons. There's the straight to digital book, and then under it, it's Iron Fist, and it has the Unlimited tag. That's the Epic collection that has all of those that Eric's talking about.
Here's the one that Here's the one that I was just talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just, but the particular issue, I can't remember if that's the same one. Eric knows though. Yeah, I read that issue. I was like, that's silly. All right.
Iron Fist is so dope. I love his costume.
Well,
It's
hopefully,
so ridiculous.
I like him here in the picture without the shirt, just the dragon tattoo.
Uh-huh.
I think that looks
Do,
better.
do you know anything about the character?
Very, very little.
Like, what very little do you know about him?
I know he goes off to some monastery off in Tibet or something and speaks to some, I don't know, gets like some cool, basically he's kind of like a chosen one type story. He gets
So
the Iron Fist and
here, let me
don't
give you
tell me, I want to read the stories. Okay.
All right, I guess you'll get a reintroduction of an origin story in there.
It better. This better stand up on its own bats, or I'm coming for you. Our readers want quality.
I'm gonna have to let me go flip through it real quick. I also had a different choice, but I chose Iron Fist instead.
Well, you can get that other one in your back pocket. Speaking of back pockets, I kind of leaked this earlier, but I came across this on Amazon today. I'm gonna be picking this up. I only buy a few Funko Pops. I think I have 4 right now. I've got a Ash, of course. I have a Jane from Firefly in the Hero of Canton gear with this goofy hat. I have who do I have? Darth Maul, I think, and can't remember the 4th one. I only buy a few. Like I buy the ones that are like really kind of special to me. Like I'm not one of these pop collectors like has a wall of pops, but the things that are like part of my fandom and speak to me or whatever, I'm like, oh, gotta have that. And so it's been a while since I've got a Funko Pop. I saw this one. I was like, this is the one to get. Did you see this, Bats?
The golden stand.
Yeah, it's it's patina, I guess, but it's kind of like that, like a bronze statue, you know, that's oxidized. So it's got the green. I think it's good. I just feel it's cool, and I'd like to have something like that that will keep. Not that Stan Lee will ever really be out of my thoughts, but he's a massive reason I love comics, and that we're all here. So that's that.
Yeah, I'm just flipping through Iron Fist right now. Yeah, this is...
We got a show, buddy. Put the comics down.
It's
Jeez
freaking
Louise.
awesome. Yeah, you're gonna like this, I think.
All right, let's see what's going on in the comment section. Do Marvel's Eye of the Camera? Marvel's Eye of the Camera might be something to consider. I'll keep that in my mind. Marvel's, no, we would not do that one. Because it's too popular. So I'm gonna rephrase or remind people.
You gotta do hidden gems.
So the idea for the ComiXology Comic Club is to try to find things that you haven't read. Like I'm gonna assume everyone's read Marvels. Anyone who's listening to this, you have not read Marvels, go get Marvels. Like, seriously. Unless you just hate all Marvel comics from the beginning of time, I guess. But if you ever had any enjoyment of Marvel comics, Marvel's is the series to get. It is fantastic. Painted art by Alex Ross through and through. You know, if you love Alex Ross covers, just imagine entire books done through. Like, it's told from the perspective of like a normal Joe witnessing the heroes, so it's
Who looks just like Alex Ross's dad.
whatever. But it makes for a very interesting narrative, because a lot of times in comics, the comics is portrayed through the eye of other heroes and stuff, and it's like heroes don't seem special, but because it's just a normal Joe who's this like photographer, it's these characters, you really see the larger than life nature of them, and like it really feels like what you'd imagine it would feel if these characters existed in our world, and you saw, you know, like the Fantastic Four for real, like in your city fighting off Galactus or something. You'd just be like, oh my god. Marvel's captures that unlike any comic I've ever read. So yeah, Sin City. Everyone, you just read Sin City. Everyone needs to read Sin City. They're all amazing. Start off with the first one, the Marv story. But Eye of the Camera is a book that a lot of people may not have read. That one's not as popular.
I know of Eye of the Camera. Isn't that
Yeah.
the sequel?
Yeah, it's like a sequel. I've never read it either. Firefly is the best sci-fi show ever. Miss it. What do you think of Greg Pak's run on Firefly right now? I haven't been reading those books because Firefly is not the best sci-fi show ever. Battlestar Galactica is.
Oh,
So
you just went down. You are a super nerd.
oh, dude, have you not seen the Battlestar Galactica, Bets?
No, because it looks super nerdy.
I know.
But
I felt the same way, and then I watched it, and I was like, "Holy fucking shit!" It's a war film. It's not a nerd show. It's a war show. It's fucking epic. Excuse my language. But I like Firefly. I have a decal on my car that says I aim to misbehave. And I'm not wrong. So yes, Firefly is good. That's how good Battlestar Galactica though is. It's way better. What else? Marvel didn't die until 2012.
I agree with that statement.
Marvel died in 1996, 95. When did they go bankrupt?
Around there.
Yeah, that was the death of Marvel.
For you.
When did Axel Alonso take over? That was the death of Marvel.
I don't know. That I don't know.
No dead air, Bats.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
What are you doing over there?
I was looking at Iron Fist, man.
Yes, put that down.
Sorry.
Nothing but professionalism here at the Ash and Bats show, people. By the
And
way,
Kate,
I might be looking
2012
for a
was
new
out.
Bats. You can apply at ashoncomics@gmail.com. Send me your resume. Oh, man. Hey, you know, I've been wanting to talk about this for a little while, so I'm going to engage the audience. Comic book release schedules. It's been when I was into comics, every comic was monthly, and some books were bi-monthly. During the summer, X-Men would go bi-weekly for like 3 months, because that was like the hottest time, and X-Men was Marvel's big. And like that was like a rare thing. But nowadays, bi-weekly seems to be the norm. And I feel like it's really hurting the industry, and it's really fatiguing me as a collector. Like I just get so behind on these books. Next thing I know, I'm like, oh geez, I got 8 issues to read and I haven't read any of them because they're just coming out like over and over and over and over. And not only am I paying $8 a month for these books, I'm not even reading them. And then I hear the other side of the coin. I hear people like, "Oh, Doomsday Clock, it's 2 months, and I haven't seen," you know, and like they're all upset, and I'm just like, so what is it? Is it bad to come out late, or is it bad to come out short? I really hate biweekly comics, and I want everything to go back to monthly. What's your thoughts?
I wanted to go back to monthly too. I understand that from a business standpoint, having a Batman comic every week makes sense because jagoffs like me will buy it. So there's that. But I wish that there was not just Batman Detective, because in the new 52, when everything was monthly, they had 4 Batman books, and all 4 of them were all different. And so it was like kind of refreshing to have a different, a new Batman book every week, but they were all so different that you could kind of, it wasn't hard to like remember what happened last time. Like, so, with Action and Superman, you're like, where am I again? Okay.
That has more to do with the writing, I think, though. Like Bendis is
Yeah,
just not memorable.
but
I'm
like,
like, well, I don't even know what happened because
I've
nothing
noticed,
happened.
yeah, I've noticed that I've just, in my personal opinion, that there's the books that I like the most right now at DC, excluding The Flash, are all monthly books.
I'm the same way. Yeah, the monthly books, except for Detective Comics. Somehow Tomasi's writing Gold biweekly. Eric Breen says, "I think Tom King's Batman would be better if Peter Tomasi was writing it." Man.
Like, yeah, like the books that I really like are monthly right now. And same with the indies too. Like, indies don't come out every damn 2 weeks. It's only the big mainstream characters like Batman and Superman and the Flash and Justice League and Spider-Man and these 900 X-Men titles all the time, so that means nothing. Uh, I don't. The quality goes down entirely because the deadlines are more crunch time, and there's no consistent artist.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we got so and so on here, and it's like, oh, that's cool. He's there for 3 months. He's there for 3 issues, and now we got someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, part of that's a problem, with just the state of the industry, because these companies have to make money, obviously. So I don't really raise hell over it because, it's like, well, this is your best-selling book. If you can sell it twice a month instead of once a month, okay. But you're right. I mean, it's the fans end up suffering ultimately because both writing quality, it just dips. Anyone who's ever tried to write something, try to write something again, but cut the amount of time in half. And then after you write that again, cut your time in half and try to write something again. See how hard it is to keep up the pace of creativity in a super short time frame. The physical act of writing a script can be done in a few hours, but the conceptualization of the script and then the rewriting of the script when you realize that, oh, this narrative kind of dead ends here, or it lags over here, or there's not enough action to keep the audience engaged, whatever, which are things I don't think are actually being done in today's comics because of these time crunches, which is why we're seeing suffering books. Action Comics 1008. Yeah,
So that
these
doesn't
monthly
help
books
that he got
allow
12
for a
other books.
writer to chill out and take all month to write their book. And I think it's showing, like, well, Venditti does write 3 books, but essentially
All
I think
three of them are monthly, though.
they're all monthly, and one of them's a mini series. So I can probably assume a lot of that was plotted out, or it's just a matter of him going through the motions of the script. I don't know if Damage is still being written, or
Right.
if it's just coming out, because they usually like are several books ahead, like 3 or 4 books. So I don't know if I keep hearing Damage is being canceled. I haven't heard anything official, but that's usually the way it goes. They don't want people to stop buying until they get all their books out. But that's so he's stronger. But then you look at people like let's look at Donny Cates over at Marvel. And he started off as a rock star, but when Bendis left, they started putting Cates on all sorts of projects. And now people are just like, ugh. Like, they're just like, whoa, no one cares. And I mean, he couldn't even sell his new book, Guardians of the Galaxy #1, barely broke 100,000 copies. Guardians of the Galaxy, with Donny Cates writing, barely broke 100,000 copies. Like, that was just like, what? 10 years ago, I would have made sense, because Guardians of the Galaxy used to be a joke comic. It was no one liked Guardians of the Galaxy, but now with the movies turning them into super popular thing, everyone loves Guardians of the Galaxy. Comics Quirks is like, Guardians is actually pretty good. I added it to my pull list.
Of course.
I just decided, Comics Quirks, you are Jimmy Olsen. That's Superman's friend, Jimmy Olsen. I'd like to see Venditti write a big name character, maybe one that's horribly misused. Any ideas? Hawkman?
He wrote The Flash for like a year, and he wrote Green Lantern for like 5 years. Oh.
Well, I think he was hinting at something, maybe one that's horribly misused. I think he's suggesting maybe he writes Superman.
Oh yeah, that would be fantastic.
Can you imagine Venditti writing Superman? I'm sure he would probably do good, but honestly, I don't want Venditti. I mean, I would be happier than when I am with Bendis, but I am so happy with what he's doing with Hawkman. I'm like, keep him. Because that would you would have to suffer, right? And if he left Hawkman and went to Superman, I don't think he would be as good on Superman as Tomasi was, and then I would lose Hawkman. And so I'm like, eh.
Well, maybe when he's done with Hawkman.
Oh yeah, like down the road for sure.
Yeah.
Like if
I mean, if Jeff Johns wrote Superman, well then so should Venditti, because that's what Venditti does. He writes things that Jeff Johns used to write. So,
I want Venditti to stay on Hawkman for a while, because what he's doing with that character is so good. And what I'm hoping is if we give him a nice long run, that whoever takes over will have a lot to work with, because you got this new origin. He's building up this world and establishing who Carter Hall is. Like, so the next person to pick up will have something, to go with. I hope that's what DC does. I really hate when they're just like, oh, you're done with your run? Cool, we're canceling the book. And now we're going to reboot it for Grant Morrison. You're like, I hate that.
right.
Just keep the numbering going. What happened to the old days when it's like, oh, you're done? Okay, so-and-so stepping over and the numbers continue. Not like, oh, they get their own #1.
Yeah, like nowadays Frank Miller's The Year One would be its own like black label prestige nonsense, and instead of it just being like 404 to 408.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it would just be like, buy this other Batman book. It's just like, you just put it in Batman. No, Tom King's writing it. Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Eric says, "Is Hawkman selling at all?"
Yeah, me and Ash are buying it.
Hawkman is not selling enough, and it's because Comics Quirks prefers Bendis. Quirks, buy some good books.
Yeah, normally SJWs will blame Trump. I feel like we should just blame Quirks on anything that's wrong with the world.
Tehalim's buying Hawkman, so high five to Tehalim.
Yeah.
That makes 3 of us. Hawkman is so good, and if I can love it, I was someone who was like, Hawkman's stupid. It's the stupidest character ever. If I'm the person who can change around and go, oh, this is amazing. Like, I was wrong. This is so good. Um, I'm like a Hawkman fan. In fact, I just found this podcast it's called Hawkcast, and I'm like, I'm gonna listen to this because it's all Hawkman stuff. Um, that's what Venditti's been doing. I don't want to oversell it, but it's the best mainstream comic written today, and it's as good of a book as, except maybe the art wise, as anything I've read in the best times of comics, in my opinion. Like, so it's not just good for today; it's good for any time. Comics Quirks buys Oblivion Song, and yes, Quirks, you get a brownie point for buying Oblivion Song. So high five. Well, you get 1, but you can expand that and get more brownie points for adding more better books to your collection. Um, let's see.
I'm I'm over here looking. So I typed in Hawkman review and just kind of looking at other, see who else is reading it on YouTube. And there's a few people.
Well, Eric Breen says, "I will. If I were still buying new comics, I'd be buying Hawkman." Well, Eric, my response to you is, Hawkman is a reason you should be buying new comics.
Even if it's just that one.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I don't know what's going on in your personal life or why you made your decisions that you've made. But if you have it in you at all to buy I mean, there's nothing wrong just buying like 2 or 3 titles a month. You don't have to be a massive collector. In fact, if anything, that's probably the best way to go. You just end up with a shit ton of books and boxes.
Well, maybe that's the problem. Is once you're in the shop, it kind of, shit starts snowballing.
Yeah. Well,
You see the Pulse ad, and you're like, "Oh, this looks kind of cool. I'll check out the first issue," and then you do, and then you're like, "Oh, I can't just like stop at the first issue. I got to give it."
well, he does say buying new comics, which implies to me that he buys old comics. So I'm thinking that he still goes to the shop in case he just doesn't get anything new. Which I've heard him talk before about. He's just kind of fed up with modern comics, but
I'm getting close to that, but then like part of me goes, "But Bats, you have a YouTube channel." But then I'm like, "But I could still have a YouTube channel and not read new comics." It's like,
but I don't think that's fair. As much as I'm complaining about things that are wrong with the industry, and there's plenty of things to complain about, they're still good, and I'm enjoying it. So, you know, Bendis isn't ruining comics for me. He's ruining Superman, and it's that bad tasting gravy is it's like running across the plate over to my, other things on my plate. But
I wish that there was an alternative to a Bendis Superman,
yeah,
like where we have action or Batman and Detective, where Batman's super cuckboy and Batman, but then he's like high tea badass in
Yeah,
detective.
that was a major mistake for DC. I mean, in hindsight, it was a major mistake to even bring Bendis over, but to give him both Superman books and put him completely in charge of Superman, that was asinine. They should have just given him the Superman book of it. Here we'll reboot Superman for you. As much as I hate that, give you your own Superman book and just let action keep on running with Jurgens or Tomasi or whoever, you know. But he didn't want that, and I think Bendis knows he doesn't want to compete with better writers, like because that would really serve to contrast. Imagine if you're Brian Michael Bendis and you've just been given a Superman #1, and less than 10 issues in, you're selling half as much as like Action Comics or something. Just there's no excuse at that point. But if you have both Superman titles, they're both going to be doing roughly the same. It's not like you can, no one's showing you up.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't like playing in continuity. He's just like he has to have his own sandbox. He can't be a part of the whole playground. He's got to have his own sandbox.
Yeah, and I'm just done with that. I'm done, and I'm not a person who hated Bendis. I read his infamous Iron Man series, and I enjoyed the heck out of it until the last issue, which should have been a warning sign for me about Man of Steel. So I defended him when he came over to DC, which I've told this story many times. And then he botched Man of Steel. And now he's just writing dog shit on Superman. And he's got his own imprint, and he's got his Jinx Worlds books. He writes 4 Jinx World books, 2 or 3 Wonder Comics, right? And then he writes the 2 Supermen. Like, it's just get off fucking Superman. Go write your Young Justice crap. Go write your Naomi nonsense that's going to be canceled before the year's over.
The Comics Court says Young Justice is good because it's fun.
It's not fun.
The first issue was fun.
No, it wasn't.
For me, it was fun.
Well, it's fun.
That second issue was utter trash. Though.
It's fun in the way like you watch like Thundercats and you see the opening credits and you get to see like everyone showing up and being like dun 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 thunder 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 Thundercats. Like that's what that first issue was. It was nothing but characters just showing up and being like, look at me, I'm here. Oh, and who are you? I'm the next character in the team. Oh, cool. And look at me, now I'm showing up. Ba-dun, ba-dun. And then the end. That's what that book was.
And then Melissa asks, what do you think of Teen Titans Universe TV show? I think they ruined the Titans by turning them murderous. Yeah, I watched the show. I watched the whole season. It was I found it entertaining, but they just wouldn't commit to the bit. They said Batman and Bruce Wayne 900 times an episode, and they didn't have the audacity to show them because like Fox owns the rights, and now it's all botched up because Disney owns Fox, and so it's so stupid. Like, shut up and just give Warner Brothers their property back.
No way. You don't do that.
They can't do anything with them because Warner Brothers still owns Batman. So they're like, they can't. Warner Brothers won't let anyone else make a Batman thing, but Fox owns the rights to TV Batman.
So Disney owns ABC. Coming soon, the Batman TV show on ABC.
With Adam West's corpse. And I would watch that.
Eric says the only thing I want Bendis writing is an apology letter to the fans. No, Eric, don't you remember? He said we're going to apologize to him. No, did he say we're going to apologize or thank him? I can't remember.
Both. I think it was both.
Oh, jeez.
He's like, hey, let me just totally ruin like the superhero. Not a superhero, the superhero.
Yeah.
That's the thing that always like bugs me as it not just as a DC fan but as a Superman fan is just people are like, I hate Superman. It's like you don't even know anything about Superman. You
Yeah.
know, it's like it's just such a normie common consensus. Like Batman's cool because he don't have superpowers. Okay, that's fine. Superman has too many powers. I hate Superman. Like, like, do you even like superheroes? Yes. Who's your favorite? Insert superhero name. Well, you have that thanks to Superman. Like, it's like that's how I look at it.
Yeah, my thing with Superman has always been like I've liked Superman, but he's one of the characters like I'm most a stickler about that I feel like he's super hard to write well. Like it's very easy to deviate just a little bit and make Superman's story awful. And other characters, I feel like we've talked about this before. I feel like you have more freedom, at least for me. You know, I can handle all sorts of different takes on Batman, and I'm like, okay. But Superman has to fit within a certain thing, and a lot of people don't know how to write that. And apparently Bendis doesn't either, and so he's changing Superman to fit what he does know how to write, and that's not his prerogative. Like that's not what he's there to do. He should be a steward for the character. Um, and I'll be forgiving of a writer who at least tries to give us Superman. Um, you know, even
Well,
like
that
I grant
your stance on Superman is my stance on Batman.
Grant Morrison gets a lot of flack, right? But he gets a lot of praise for reasons as well. And sometimes I'm just like, he Morrison's things, and you're just like, what? This isn't like he did it with X-Men. I think he did it with Batman. I never read the Batman stories, but what I've heard about his run on Batman, where he'll just like reimagine how things are, and it's like, oh, it's a Grant Morrison version of this character or whatever. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But when Grant Morrison wrote Superman, he wrote Superman. You know, he didn't go off the reservation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Grant Morrison was like, I'm not fucking with this. You know, I'll fuck with
He did,
Batman.
but he also had the liberty of having the liberty of going, hey, this is a Elseworlds or a Black Label now or whatever. It's not regular Superman continuity.
No, but he did the run on was it New 52? Wait, no.
Oh
Right
yeah, 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 yeah,
right before
yeah.
New 52. Grant Morrison's
No,
Superman
he
run.
did the 52. He did Action Comics.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, the one where he's back in jeans and stuff.
Yeah, that's the New 52.
Yeah, yeah, okay. That's the one I'm talking about. I like read that and I was like, "Oh, shoot. Like this is
I
really
thought you were
good."
talking All Star Superman.
Well, I mean, if you're going into Elseworld type stuff, I forgive you. You know, All-Star was like DC's ultimate, wasn't it? It was like meant to be
Originally, that was their idea, but that really fell through real fast.
yeah, like I'm cool with that. Like Mark Millar did the whole like communist Superman story. Like that's not part of continuity. That was just like, hey, let's come up with a weird creative what if tale. That's fine. But when you're writing in the continuity like Bendis is doing right now, you need to write the character as they're, be true to the character. You're working for the fans. You're not working for yourself. Right? That's your job is to give the fans what they expect to your best of your ability. Um, if you don't want to do that, if you want to be ultimately, if that hampers your creativity, then go write your own shit, make your own characters.
Eric Brain says New 52 Action Comics was awful.
Oh, you didn't like the? Well, he doesn't like Morrison.
Well, and New 52 was so a drastic change for everyone who are big DC fans that at my even at my own LCS, there's people who were Superman fans, and even well into Rebirth, I was like, you can come back now. You can come back to Superman now.
See, I think I did not read the entirety of Grant Morrison's run, and I have the first trade, and it does kind of get weird towards the end. But that beginning story arc that that Morrison wrote, I thought was fantastic. I think it was Rags Morales did the art.
Yeah.
I thought that was very true to the essence of the character that makes Superman Superman. Like, and it was a fantastically well told story. I mean, it gripped me. I've read it twice now since I've had it. It's one of those books. Like I started picking it up because I was talking about it in the past and just flipping through it, and I just found myself having to read it from beginning to end. Like I couldn't stop reading it, and that's saying something. So I don't know. I can get the problems with New 52, but I didn't feel like that particular story. I think if I didn't know that was New 52, I wouldn't know. Like it didn't feel like it was different.
Oh, it did to me.
The Grant Morrison run?
Uh-huh.
Huh.
I mean, if that's your jump on point.
No, it's not my jump on point. I mean, I've read Superman in the past. I've been around comics since.
No, but I'm saying, like, if that's your jump back in point for Superman, it's totally fine. But if you're uh like Robert and DCFU always talk about, like, New Krypton and how horrible that was, it, like, Superman was dragging in that area, and then I really liked the grounded storyline that everyone hated, but I really liked it.
Well,
And
see, I'm just judging something on base whether it's
and then
good
and then
comic. Like, is it
yeah,
good story? Is it well crafted?
yeah. So let me finish real quick. So grounded was really good in my opinion, and then it, like, switches over to New 52, and it was so drastically different. The character's still the same, but just the feel of the book. They were both really good, but they're polar opposites.
Well, see, a lot of people though judge something purely subjectively, in the sense where, okay, we're gonna make a change or do something like New 52, and then we're gonna rewrite these characters, and now these characters are different than they used to be, or they have a different origin, or whatever these different. And if that does not appeal to the fan who liked them previously, that may cause them to be like, whoa, this isn't the character that I like. I mean, this is the problem that the movies used to have. Like, why you could never get a good superhero movie. Because every time, some studio would buy the rights and make a movie, you're like, oh, look, we're going to make a Punisher movie with Dolph Lundgren. Isn't this exciting? You're like, no, this is stupid. You just took our character and you made him stupid. Like,
I don't know. He threw a lot of knives in that movie. That was pretty sweet.
whatever.
They had skulls on the knives.
And people like me as a comic book fan, I was like, look, just make the character right. And I remember just, obviously a big Sam Raimi fan, as a, taking my name.
No.
And I remember when that Spider-Man came out, and I came out of the theaters and I was like, wow, like, this is what happens when you get a person who understands the character, respects the source material, and tries to do it justice. Like, and blew away all these records. Everyone loved it, and we got a new renaissance of superhero films because of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. And it was like, if you do it like the comics, it can succeed. That was the trigger mechanism that the studios needed to be like, oh, we don't have to change it, that audiences do like it the way it was in the comics. Okay. And so they started making films and making money hand over fist, and then all of a sudden DC decided to screw that up with their extended universe and be like, nah, let's change the characters again and not make it like the comics. And it's you're seeing the exact same problems we used to have. Audiences are rejecting it. They're like, what the hell's this deal with Batman running around with guns and shooting people and this is killing people and this isn't Batman? What the hell's going on? And no one wants it. It's like it has nothing even to do with the quality, because you can argue that Man of Steel is a good quality film, but a lot of people reject it because of the treatment of Superman. Now, this is the thing that comics are doing. You're changing the characters, and people are like, I don't want my characters changed. But you can get away with it if you tell a really good story. If you execute it really well, a lot of times you can change people's minds. Like, that's what's happening with Hawkman right now. It's just like, oh, you're retelling Hawkman's origin, making a new thing. I can see like some old Hawkman fans maybe going, oh, this isn't the way I want it. Like, this isn't, what are you doing? But if you just open your mind and be like, okay, let's see. Oh, this is like better than pretty much anything that's been done before. Okay, well, it's not the same, but I prefer this, so let's move on. I don't know. I'm rambling at this point.
Eric Breen says Ash has a good point. Personally, I was still pissed about DC's I can't
Methodically.
read that methodically. Sometimes I just see big words and my brain is like, nope, fuck you.
Shut down.
Like, yeah, but like if I'm like reading it like in a book, it's totally fine. Says undoing everything about Burns' Superman, and the New 52 is the final nail in the coffin. Undoing the marriage.
What marriage did they undo?
Well, that was Bendis.
I'm struggling to understand. It says, I was still pissed about DC methodically undoing everything about Burns' Superman. Okay, so that makes sense. And then the New 52 put the final nail in the coffin by undoing the marriage.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, the New 52, him and Lois weren't married. That's what he's talking about. They didn't even work at the Daily Planet together.
Ah, but see, Eric, DC did this really clever thing, and they had their cake and they ate it too, because there was two Loises and two Superman.
But that was so far away from each other, and that was only because of the Eric Breens going, fuck this.
Well, it's far away from. I mean, the thing is it didn't undo the marriage. It gave us a new Lois and a new Clark Kent that hadn't got married. They were younger. They were like 10 years younger.
But what you're speaking on is only exists because of outrage, essentially. Like in they're 5 years apart, and that's real time. So from 2011,
New 52 only lasted like 2 years.
no, it was 4.
Was it? I thought it was 2.
52 issues monthly. The whole series ended at 52 issues.
No, you're talking about the prelude, the first, the 52, and then the countdown to 50.
No, I'm talking about the New 52 that went from 2011 to 2016.
I thought New 52 only lasted a couple years.
It went 52 months. It was 4 years. It was long. I got the issues of Batman. It's 52 issues.
Yeah, but that's bi-weekly.
No, it was monthly. The bi-weekly thing didn't happen till Rebirth. And when they first announced the Rebirth, they're like, "Oh, these books are gonna be twice a month," and I was like, "You guys, I ain't paying that much money for comics." They're like, "It's $2.99." I'm like, "All right." Instead of it being $4 a month, it's $6, and I get two books for $2. I get an extra book for another $2. All right, that's fair enough. And then they're like, Haha, just kidding. 6 months later, everything's $3.99. You
Hmm.
bastards.
Well, I know it's probably not the popular opinion, but I liked how the Superman stories ended up. At least I haven't read all of them, but I read how they ended up with the New 52, and I love the death of Superman in New 52 was better than the death of Superman back in the 90s. They didn't make a big fanfare of it, which, I mean, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but they just sort of like had it happen. Unlike back in the day where it was like, okay, months ahead, we're gonna, everyone knew Superman was gonna die. They just kept advertising it. I think, that was awesome how they handled it in New 52, and then the idea that the Superman and Lois from outside of the New 52 were still around, and then that Superman becomes the Superman of the New 52 was pretty compelling. I really enjoyed it. I don't know what to say. Like I can see why fans are pissed off. I've seen a lot of the things. I do think the whole like we're rebooting some continuity, but then we're continuing other continuity, and it doesn't fit.
It was kind of also with like, fans were outraged. They're like, this isn't Superman. And they're like, it is now. And then they're like, I want Wally West. And they're like, here you go. And they're like, that's not Wally West. That's some kid in a silver costume. And they're like, okay, sorry about that. Here you go. And it's like, that's the same kid in old Wally's costume. They're like, but this is New 52 Wally West. They're like, that, all right, I'll take it. I guess. And then Rebirth happened, and they're like, here you go. And they're like, well, now there's two of them. Oh, it's like, so, but with at least they had the, with the Superman thing, they're like, well, we have to kill Superman. And then
Melissa breaks my heart. She doesn't agree with me. She says the 90s death of Superman was better. It's probably the worst thing that Jurgens ever wrote.
So if you, I'm taking applications for Ash. Yeah, I haven't busted your balls on that one because I was just like, whatever.
No, it just, here's why. Like the New 52, it's okay. So the original Death of Superman, first of all, I just don't hold that in very high regard. I know it's this huge event, and DC fans are still today celebrating this story, and it's like, oh look, now we got cartoons for it and all this stuff. I was there. I was working in a comic book shop, buying my books, and I was like, oh, well, I don't really buy DC books, but it's the death of Superman, so I'm gonna start buying this storyline so I can follow along, just like I did with Nightfall. Because I do like Batman and Superman, so I was like, oh, I want to see this story. This is a huge deal. And then I bought them, and I read it, and I was like, this was dumb. Like, Doomsday is like one of the dumbest villains ever created. It's just this big Hulk monster that just smashes Superman to death. And then they fight each other to the point of they both kill each other with their last punch. I was like, that's cornball. And then I was like, oh, but we know Superman can't stay dead. Like, everyone knew there's no way that Superman is really just dead. So we're like, okay, so this is just a matter of time until Superman comes back, but how are you going to bring him back from this? It's cheesy. So the reason I like New 52 is Superman is dead. That's the only actual Superman death was New 52. In Death of Superman, Superman comes back. He didn't really die. We just thought he was dead. New 52 Superman, he's dead. The Superman that we got is a different Superman from a different multiverse.
I've been telling you to read that Superman Reborn, and you haven't. Gotta read it, man. You gotta read Superman Reborn.
I will. I'll get to it.
Because every time we get on this one, I'm like, oh, he needs to read that. He needs to read it. Because you're missing a big.
Somebody woke up on the wrong side of the good Superman stories this morning, Eric says. All right, well, I'm outnumbered. Unpopular opinion. That's me.
This is that you're like you're missing a big chunk of Tomasi Jurgen's Rebirth Superman. If anything, you're actually missing the main story.
I think I have. Wait, did I? I think I might have
read
read
it. You just haven't read it.
That might be the case.
No, I know you have it because we've talked about it before.
I can't keep track of because trades are harder to follow, like what you've read and what you haven't. Issues are a lot easier to be like, I've read up to this issue number.
It's almost like if you're playing bingo and you didn't put a chip on your free one in the center. That's like the equivalency of it. Superman Reborn is the essential Superman Rebirth story.
Did I read this? I'm flipping through it right now.
No, I know you haven't read it, just on how you.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I already know. It's like if you were like you only get one graphic novel of Superman Rebirth. Reborn is the only one you need.
Yeah, I'm just not. Okay, I'm gonna read it.
It's like you almost have a house, but you don't have a foundation. And so the house is like, oh, that's a good house. But it has no foundation. And it's Tomasi and Jurgens together. It's not.
What books does it cover? Action.
It jumps between action and Superman. So
All
kind of
right.
like how the Button and
Yep.
yeah, it's kind of like that where
Yep.
it was one a week.
I was like, because I've read. That's the problem. Is I've read the Action Comics trades, right? And then you read the Superman trades. But when they do these crossover ones, it's like they're skipped.
They pull those issues.
So yeah, so I need to. Okay. All right. Whatever. I like what I liked so far about Superman. You guys are all curmudgeons. DC fans are curmudgeons.
Well, welcome to the curmudgeonville.
Yeah, Melissa, you're right. Death of Superman was the first appearance of Connor Kent, a.k.a. Superboy. I hate him. Gosh, and that's another mark against Bendis for bringing him back. Why is Connor Kent back? We don't know. It doesn't matter. Here he is. He's still wearing his 90s gear.
Did you see Bendis's tweet where he said that Jonathan is like Kryptonian for Connor?
Oh, jeez.
And then pretty much Superman fandom on Twitter lost its mind. And it was like and that was one of them. And I was just like, quote tweeted him. I'm like, all right, now it's time. Hashtag fire Bendis.
And here's the thing. Connor Kent has existed for, 30 years now? 25 years?
5, yeah.
Right? So Connor Kent's an established character. He's got a fan base. Okay, fine. who am I? Like, I'm a new DC fan. I concede. Okay, you want your Connor Kent? Fine, have him. Why do you need to change John Kent to be more like Connor Kent if you're gonna bring Connor Kent back?
In my opinion, too, they both stand on their own merit as very different characters, and if one of them needs to have a name change, and it would obviously have to be Connor because Superboy has to be Superman's son. Um, that's
Well, the
fine.
thing is, from my understanding, though, Connor Kent was only called Superboy because that's what people called him. He was wanting to be called Superman.
Well, yeah.
He was one of the 4 Supermen.
Yeah, but he was still a 16-year-old boy.
I mean, everyone was just like, "You're not Superman. You're Superboy," and he's like, which I think that's kind of cool. Like, if he's supposed to be a young Superman, that makes more sense. I just, he's only called Superboy because he's a boy. I don't know enough about the 4 Superman. I noped out when that storyline came. And I was like, now we got 4 Supermen, and most of them are stupid except for Steel. I was like, I'm out of here.
But nonetheless, like there's plenty of stories with Connor Kent that I think are great, as well as I think John Kent is great.
Yeah, I mean, but what makes John Kent work for me is
He's his son.
Well, yes, but also he's a pre-pubescent boy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes him work for me. That's part of the character. Like, I feel you take that away, you're destroying the character.
Yeah, because now we have like 2 17-year-old Superboys.
Well, even without Connor Kent, like, that's part of what the character is, right? You could write a story of like 13-year-old Bruce Wayne. That's not Batman.
Mm-hmm.
That's 13-year-old Bruce Wayne who will eventually become Batman. That's, so 11-year-old, however old Jonathan was, 11-year-old John Kent is that character. Like, at 17-year-old, that's not the character anymore. I don't want to see him at 35. I don't want to see him at 17. I don't want to see him at 5. I want to see him at 11. That's what his character is. Ugh.
Yeah, it's just, and then Bendis is like writing 2 Superboys who are 17. It's just
right
dumb.
now, and yeah, that's like icing on the cake. You're just like, oh, and on top of those problems, now you've got 2. Hey, I got an idea. Why don't we launch a book that has both of them in it? We can call it like Superboys.
Yeah, if DC didn't already have a twinning problem, which I defend constantly, right? If DC didn't already have a twinning problem, it's like Bendis just deliberately made it happen.
How about, actually, we could call it Super Bros.
No, because they're not brothers.
Yeah, but they're bros. They're both at that age, they're bro.
I mean, well, Connor is half Superman's DNA.
Super dude bros. So stupid. Oh. It says for Connor Kent, son of Superman, and Lex Luthor passing the SJW. What?
The other half of Connor is Lex. That's a Jeff Johns storyline, and it's really good.
Yay. There should only be one Superman.
There is only one Superman. There just happens to be a cyborg Superman.
There should only be one Kryptonian hero.
I disagree.
That's what makes Superman hero, like a special. Superman is special because he has the power to take over the world and run it for himself and force everyone to bow to him. He could be the ultimate supervillain, and yet he chooses to do good. He chooses to be humble. He chooses to not be greedy. Like, the idea that other people can run around with the same powers and not have his same moral compass, but yet for whatever reason they don't succumb to temptation or any other of these traits, like, just doesn't make sense to me. It just, like, and now I'm like, oh, so Connor is half Lex Luthor, who's just full of bad traits. Like, I just wrestle with it. Like, so basically everyone that is a Kryptonian, unless they're Zod, they have to be the same moral compass as Superman.
Okay. Why?
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have the power to do whatever you want, no one can stop you. Unless you have that moral compass, you're gonna. That's what makes Superman amazing, is that he's able to resist. This is what they did that story where Batman was offered the ability to have Superman's power, and he's like, I was afraid to take it because he's like, he realized, I can't be Superman. Like, that would be awful. I thought it was a cool story. Eric Breen's noped out. We kept him up past his bedtime. Sorry. We were going to make this one shorter, and in fact, it is shorter than usual. But we started like over half an hour late. So thanks for watching. Always a pleasure to have you on board. And I love talking to you. If you're still here to hear me, that is. We should probably wrap this up ourselves, Bats.
Sure thing. Here, I wanted to do this real quick. Let's see. All right, so I'm screen sharing. And I wanted to show you that.
Hold on.
It's not working again.
Give me a sec. What are you doing? Did you take it off?
There. Is it working?
It looks like you're showing me a picture of Bendis.
It's not Bendis, so that's Connor.
Okay, that's interesting. He's not, doesn't look like a boy there.
Well, no, this is from the Teen Titans stuff. He started aging around here. This was one of the covers. It's kind of a shitty cover, but it's, well, the image is small. So there's a storyline in Jeff Johns' Teen Titans run where Lex has a trigger word. Basically, he can. Oh my gosh, get out of here! Where he can pretty much take over Superboy at any given time. And then what Jeff John, like what you're talking about, how like everyone has to have the moral compass. Well, once Superboy finds out he's half Lex, he starts losing his moral compass because he starts doubting himself. Well, the whole time he's looked up to.
It's not how moral. It's not how moral compasses work. But
I haven't read it since 2003. Okay, cut me some slack.
was like 15 years ago. But he starts to doubt himself because if he's part Lex, then he's part evil. That's how he sees itself.
It's just a matter of selfishness. Everyone is selfish, right? But most of us don't have the ability to get away with absolute selfishness. So, I don't know. Just that's the way Superman work. The only reason Superman works for me at all is because of his moral compass. That's what makes him an awesome hero. And that's why Marvel has never been able to replicate Superman, because they have their character, was it Sentinel or Sentry? And, to be honest, it's an interesting character. I like the whole, like, good and evil dichotomy about the character. But if you have a character at that power level, they have to be, like, perfect. That's, Marvel characters get away with being imperfect because they are usually low power level. They can't do much harm. And so forth. But, you see what happened. This Injustice story is actually a really good story about that concept of just like, yo, what if something happens that just pissed you off to no end? Like, you get the power to take over the world, and do things your way. No one could stop you. I mean, just think about all the times people have done you wrong, Bats, and you've just wanted to be like, oh, motherfucker. I'm going to get, like, and you had no one could stop you. You're like, I do what I want. No one, most of us are restrained because of outside forces, not because of ourselves. And then of course, if you're a villain, that's the way you get at those characters. If you're a villain, you get at Connor by temptation, pushing him to fight against that. It's, I don't know. It's just I just have a problem. It's hard to put it into words. Conquick says, "What did you think of the ending of Oblivion Song 12? Haven't read it yet." Tahelium says, "I dislike characters that come off as soulless." I agree. CW ruined Manchester Black and the Elite. Don't know anything about that, Melissa. I'm sorry. Even if it's an evil villain, that feels like not a character at all. Tahelium, yep. I don't know anything about CW characters. I don't watch them, so I can't comment. Do you watch any of the CW shows, Bats?
No, I noped out a long time ago.
I thought about checking out the Arrow series. Seems like people like that, but then now people seem like they don't like it.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's okay. It's kind of like when that's the only superhero show on TV and it's a character you like, there's kind of like, okay, yeah, I guess, I don't know why he's wearing all this eye makeup when he could just wear a mask. It'd make more sense being that the character wears a mask. And then he gets it at like the end of the second season and you're like, all right, well, thank you for finally giving us the mask. It's like, I don't know. I've lost all interest in superhero television in general. I watched the Titans TV show because out of pure curiosity of a lot of my favorite characters at DC on the same screen together. A huge Starfire fan. Not as much as that Pope Fire guy on Twitter. That guy's nuts. How much he likes Starfire.
What do you think of Streetwalker Starfire?
She's an attractive woman, but they just gave her a terrible costume. Yeah.
She looks like she's like a streetwalker. Like, it's
like I've seen better cosplays at conventions of Starfire.
It's not even so much that the costume is like bad. It's like they didn't even understand. Like, they literally made her look like a hooker.
Yeah, that red,
like
that hair, like
the iconic look of Starfire.
And they're
is,
like she's like wearing like this fur coat thingy, bizarro. It, it's
yeah,
so awful.
yeah, like the iconic look of like when you think of Batman, you know you think of like pointy ears and a cape, like
Yeah,
you know, right? Starfire is like big giant '80s hair that's made of flames, and you know, and so like they just gave her this like her hair comes down to like her chest at best length, and it's like no, like Starfire's hair comes down to her her ankles essentially. And then when she flies, but she doesn't fly in this show, but when she flies, she has a trail of fire behind her.
yeah.
Like,
Comics
and
Quirk says, "How are you guys behind on reading? Take like an hour out of your day to read like 4 issues." Hey, Comics Quirks, did you read Battle Angel Alita?
hey, Comics Quirk, take an hour out of your day to do a video every day.
Oh, snap. Snap. And did you read Battle Angel Alita and for our Comics Club this week? Because we both read the whole and saw the movie. Just giving you shit, bud. We love you.
I know we love you, Quirks, but hey, man, I like this is like inside baseball. But when you do a video every day, it actually, you know, you watch a YouTube channel and you're like, oh, cool, this 15-minute video. 15-minute video takes roughly anywhere from like an hour to 2 hours to make because you know to read a comic takes like 15-20 minutes, then you gotta make the video which costs another 15-20 minutes. Now you're 30 minutes in, and then it takes 15-20 minutes to upload. That's 45 minutes. Then you gotta make a thumbnail while that's uploading. You gotta then you go on there, you gotta put in all your description, your tags, and then before you know it, it's like I normally upload around like 10:30, but it's not until about 12 o'clock I'm done finalizing that video.
See, so he didn't read. So Battle Angel Alita was like what, 6 issues? Was that first volume? So
Yeah,
I did. We did take an hour and read. No, it's okay, buddy. We know. No harm, no foul. Like we're just playing around. Like I do need to read more comics, and sometimes I sit around and I'm like spending a couple hours on Twitter, getting all involved, and I'm just like, I should be reading comics instead of just getting into this nonsense. So, um, anyways, we're gonna wrap this up. Everyone's getting sleepy, tired, and this is gonna hit 3 hours, which I want to get this down to 2 hours. But right before we do wrap this up, I want to real quick for everyone that's still involved. I wish I would have got Eric Breen. I'll get him on the side. I started something that I tweeted out. I don't know if everyone has seen. I got bats educated tonight, but I have started a what do you call a Discord.
If I could just make a suggestion here, might as well. I think everyone who comes to the streams watches your videos. Maybe you could make a video and invite them there.
I guess. Then I'm just like making a video about Discord. That's kind of a boring video. But maybe I will. But anyways, just real quick. I'm just going to take like 60 seconds here. You should see on your screen, this is what it looks like. Originally it was designed for video games. The reason I like it is because it has voice chat, so we can talk if you want. It's also got text chat, so it works kind of like a message board. You can have multiple channels about different subjects or however you want to be used. It works on all devices, Android, iOS, PC, whatever. It syncs across your devices, so you got that. I want to invite anyone that's interested to come on. Currently have a little over half a dozen people, but the reason I want to bring this up here is because for next week's stream, I want to have an after party sort of thing. Probably going to try to do a shorter stream next week and then stop it. But I think one of the reasons our stream goes on so long is because Bats and I just have a lot of fun shooting the shit. We just want to talk to you guys. But that also makes our stream suffer and become like this 3-hour monstrosity. But if we can do like an hour and a half, 2-hour stream and cut it, wrap it up, put it on YouTube, whatever, and then we can just all shoot the shit together, I think that still works, and we get the best of both worlds. So I just wanted to introduce you to that. I'll tweet out the information. Again, you can find us, as always, I'm Ash1138 on Twitter. Bats is SGT Bats on Twitter. I also, for anyone that cares, I hate panhandling, but I started a Patreon account. One of my Twitter followers kind of like encouraged me on that, so I was like, all right, I'll start it, because he was like, I'll donate to your Patreon, and I was like, I don't have one. He's like, oh,
Patreon.
I was like, oh, well, you're telling me you want to donate, so I guess maybe I should make one. So I did. Anyways, I have a Patreon now, and anyone that likes that, you're independently wealthy, you want to drop $1 or $2 or something, it does actually help. I want to be able to put this towards a channel. I have been buying equipment. I want to do more comics that aren't necessarily good. Currently, I pretty much only buy good comics except for Superman. But I'd like to be able to do more roasts like our boy Zach. If I could have some funding to pick up funny stuff to make fun of. But that's that. That's out of the way. Bass, do you have any final things you want to add at the end of the show?
Go read Badger.
Go read Badger. We gotta find. That's hard to find. It's not on ComiXology.
No, I looked it up and I was just like, well, shit on a stick. That's not like, I typed in Badger and I was just, all this weird wackadoo nonsense came up and I was like, oh, what is this? No, where's Norbert? Like, and then I type in Mike Barron and then like everything else he's ever done. And I'm like, are you serious? What? Why? Why, Lord? Why can't I have Badger on here? You could have the entire Valiant universe on ComiXology, but we can't have Badger.
Yeah, it's probably someone has the rights. Probably some old company.
Capital Comics has it. But,
yeah,
but
they just probably don't exist anymore, right? It's like just sitting in limbo.
Yeah, but then because we have the graphic novels at the LCS. I want to see who published that, because I know Dark Horse has the publishing, like graphic novel publishing of Nexus, and they've put out various different volumes on it. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into it. But if you have a local comic shop with back issues, go find Badger #1. It'll be like $2 at the most, $5 at the most, and it'd be totally worth it. So that's my final thought. Go read Badger.
Go read Badger. All right, guys. As always, you have been the best people to talk to. I really appreciate everyone staying up late. I know the time frames are not great for everyone. We're on the West Coast, which makes it hard because everyone else seems to live
on the other side
to the east of us. So but thanks for staying up, watching, and giving us people to talk to. That's all I like to do for. I like to see you on Twitter. Also if you get on the Discord, they send notifications and stuff. It's a great place to meet up. I like Twitter, but it's more of it's not very personal. And this way you can talk to people directly, and so forth, and occasionally do the voice chat as well. See how that works. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Same Bats time.
Same Ash channel.
All right. Take care, all.